Hey guys, this is Tom. Wall behind my head because I didn't adjust my webcam. But this is Tom. It's Saturday night, January 21st. SSFA draft review show. I'm flying solo as a host of children at home and a loving wife. Tend to his, family time, family responsibilities. Only appropriate. So he said that he might possibly be able to pop in for a cameo, but I don't think so. He's got the Battle Royale draft going on. He's got playoff games in various leagues. We just had the SSFA draft. I'm sure he's trying to get ready for a SOMIFA, just starting soon. SFA, I mean, really, I'm in 4 keeper leagues. 4 leagues, period. SOMIFA, SSFA, SOMIFA, and Autumn Wind. I've only been at SOMIFA 2 seasons. And in the first of those, I only played 4 games before settling them. Discussed in the league. Up. Background, I think. Is that Dan? It's Lawrence. Hey, Lawrence, how's it going? All right. Lawrence, can you hear me? I'm going to mute your microphone, Lawrence. I'll have to mute Lawrence's microphone. He realizes that. There we go. Okay, but we're flying solo. I'll give it back my Google effects. There it is. So tricky. So I'm in SOMIFA, SSFA, SOMIFA, and Autumn Wind. Only been at SOMIFA 2 seasons. And the 2 where I have my deepest roots. The first Modern Keeper League I was in. That's all I'm in now is Modern Keeper Leagues. 2 in the fall, 2 in the spring. And SSFA is the only league where I drafted the team from scratch from an entire pool. So my fingerprints, my stamp is on this team more than any other. And they went 0-16 last year, but okay, that's you all know the story. But that's my team. I'm in the middle of a rebuilding cycle, and I'll probably take a merciless beating again this year. I might go 0-16 again, maybe win a game or 2. We'll see. I'm pretty happy with the way the draft went. So what we're going to do here, it's a lot harder, I think, when I'm by myself. I don't have to bounce it off of solo before. When we first started doing these, I was about them and getting carried away, so Dennis couldn't do them all. He's even down to 11 Strat leagues. Just imagine that, from 13. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through the first round, team by team. What's going on? I am screen sharing, which is good. So the draft started out today. What time was it? 11 a.m. Eastern. We have a couple of new managers in there. I should have brought that up on the screen because there's a couple of guys that I'm just not that familiar with. And there they were in the draft. We have as many as 3 new managers in SSFA. Guys were making their introductions on the forum, but I think that was for SOMIFA. But I know we have at least 2 new guys. Jason Collard, I'll assume, coaching Buffalo. Dan T, not to be confused with Dan M. Dan T, coaching Pittsburgh. I'm surprised we didn't already have that franchise name taken. And I think that's it, just those 2 guys. So Pittsburgh and Buffalo would be the 2 teams where I don't know anything about these guys, really. Never played with them before. Now, Michael was in here last year as Cleveland. He might have been in Buffalo at that time, but same franchise. Draft last year, Ed drafted for him. This was his first year drafting. He was going to be my partner tonight because he did a good job doing a preview show, FDL, which Dennis co-runs at Mark Long shot on the forum. Michael has a birthday celebration. His birthday was last week. They're going out tonight. It's a long story. But now the Ravens, Baltimore, that's Jeff, had the first pick in the draft. Traded up with me, of course. I went 0-16, so that tends to get you the first pick overall, as it should. And we made a big trade, and it was kind of similar to what Zeb traded SOMIFA to move up from like 17-1. Here we were going from 14-1. I wasn't looking to draft another quarterback. If I had to, I probably would have. Mariota came through, and I could trade for Mariota or Derek Carr. Whatever, more valuable or stronger or weaker or whatever, you know what I mean. I could choose between the two of them. But he traded me his 1, which was number 14 overall. Year Josh Norman, and his 3 this year. Then I traded Josh Norman as part of a package deal, but you could basically say Josh Norman to Washington for a late one next year. So I kind of got 3 number 1s, although the best one of those was only number 14. Washington looks like a playoff team. Jeff's improved his team a little for the year. So that might be a middle of the first round type of pick. We'll see. Deal. I still felt like spring league first round picks, you should get good players. Although guys are drafting better and better all the time. Today was no exception. And so it can make it a little harder. Late second round picks in the spring leagues, and now the guys are drafting so good. It's like, oh no, I gotta get top 30, 32, and those are going to be more expensive. So it's good. You like a competitive environment. So no big surprise. Oregon Jeff drafted Marcus Mariota first overall. Mariota, quiet guy, doesn't get a lot of publicity or a lot of hype. He was a number 2 pick in the draft in 2014, right? Or 2015, let's see. Right now, it's a 2016 NFL season. This is 2015 Strat. So 2015, he was the second pick of the draft in April of 2015. And has put up good numbers both years. He's good with the ESPN total QBR, which has been a pretty good predictor of young quarterback success. He did break his leg late in the regular season. I think the season finale, or maybe it was the week before, the penultimate game where the Titans needed to win to force a showdown with Houston, the Texans, in Week 17. Mariota broke his leg, and Derek Carr broke his leg. For a couple of NFL teams trying to make the playoffs. So, the question of Mariota, look, this is usually the question with almost any of these guys drafted number 1 overall. Block, who everyone said is Mr. Can't Miss. How good are these guys going to be? Are they going to be Rodgers, Tom Brady good? Or are they going to be Matthew Stafford, before this year, Matt Ryan good? Or are they going to be a little worse than that, like Joe Flacco type of guy? No one knows. No one in the NFL knows for sure. People have their opinions. But that's one thing you have to remember when you're doing this, especially with young quarterbacks. The guys who do this for a living, whose career is riding on the line, make mistakes all the time. But it end up being a horrible mistake. We don't know. Plus, they traded a lot to get him. He's gone. This guy, you all know the Rams, that was RG3 to Washington for a whole lot. And they played a game like 2 years later. Since for the game, Jeff Fisher brings out all the players that the Rams drafted with those picks. As if to say, hey, look, we ripped you off in this deal. How do you like this? How do you like it now? And then, of course, he trades a fortune this year to move from 8-1 to draft Jared Goff and loses his job. Ryan Grigson was fired today as GM of the coach. Thank God. At long last, I'm not a Colts fan, but blocking for your franchise quarterback, you probably shouldn't keep your job. Also, no defense. Basically, they have T.Y. Hilton. Here's to get Andrew Luck, T.Y. Hilton. That's it. Thanks. A couple of decent guys. The corner, Vontae Davis, they signed for agency. He's good. But basically a wasteland. They need a lot more. And you shouldn't need a whole lot if you already have a real good quarterback. Maybe Andrew Luck's overrated. A lot of people think that. I was talking with someone about this. I think I was talking to Brad. Before I called this playoff game, we were schmoozing. Here. Very 21st century, right? It's still around somehow. Because AOL hardly exists anymore as a company, as far as I know. Somehow, I think Dennis said that they don't support their product anymore. I don't know what they do for business. Certainly not like it was back in the 90s. There's something else for me to Google. tonight or tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow. I need to do a show, a late meal or a snack or something. I'm trying to get some sleep. Tomorrow, this is the day before the conference championship games. Atlanta at Green Bay at 3 o'clock Eastern, and Pittsburgh at New England, maybe 6:30, 6:40, somewhere around there. I don't know. I have not made any predictions yet. I do like New England, mostly because they always beat Pittsburgh, even though Pittsburgh is hot right now. I don't know who to pick in the NFC. I guess I pick Green Bay. I like Atlanta, but Rodgers is just so hot right now, and Atlanta's defense got a lot of young guys that are up and coming, but they're not there yet. On the other hand, how's Green Bay going to stop Atlanta? Green Bay's secondary is just devastated with injury. Atlanta likes to throw the ball down the field, and they got backs they can run with and guys who can catch screens and do things. So, and the quick hitters. So, it should be a shootout. You have to score at least 35 to win. That's for sure. Sure, but it seems like it. So we don't know what's going to happen with Mariota, but he certainly looks very, very solid. When I was shopping him earlier and I couldn't get what I wanted, I did a lengthy forum post about his bona fides. And really, his second-year numbers are than almost any quarterback of the last 10, 12 years, including guys like Andrew Luck and guys further back like Matt Ryan and stuff like that. So that's a good sign for Jeff, and he's Jeff Stuck. That's interesting that Jeff made some moves for the year. Treated that like his 2 and his 4. For Jonathan Stewart, who's a Duck, but only averaged 3.8 yards a carry in the NFL last year. Weird to me because I felt like you trade all this for a young quarterback. Is this Marcus Mariota's best card? No, not even close. But his worst card, for a good 10, 12 years if he's a good player, a good NFL quarterback. So why would you invest right now? And he's not going to win the championship. He's not making moves where he's going to win the championship. And that's not even guaranteed he makes the playoffs, I would say. Team for now, when you just invested heavily in a young quarterback, his card next year will be better. True that if you want next year, try and do something. But I tend to be a long-term guy. I'm okay with a couple of seasons of losing. Don't like that as much. Jeff has said it's about fun for him, with him enough to know that he wants to compete at that high level. And we had a very close final in SSFA when I made the Super Bowl and lost to by the rookie Mike Lennon a year or two ago. And I know Jeff enjoyed being in that game and the high stakes of it. And anyway, I don't think he's getting back there this year. But Mariota, interesting because you had Butch Schrammick was there originally. And Jersey Joe Golden was drafting number 4. Joe's got Alex Smith. And I'm a lot slower with the clicking around with my disability, etc. than Dennis is. While I'm talking, which I tend to do, Dennis can look up things and then chime in, which always works well. I think he's got a decent running back. I'm not certain. Oh, Doug Martin. Okay, is chunky. But he's got Alex Smith and Doug Martin. The rest of the team is kind of okay. But he really wanted to trade up. Which is interesting because if he stayed at 4, you say, maybe he gets David Johnson, or maybe he likes Todd Gurley. I know Gurley's not going to have anything next year, but long term, you'd feel good about it. But Alex Smith is 33. He does have on the card. He is a pretty fine quarterback right now. He's top 8, I think, in the set this year because he's so low turnover. You can probably expect that type of thing next year. But just like in the NFL, in Strat, you feel like, Alex Smith, I don't know, how far am I going to go with this guy? The rest of your team is good enough. You can go far with anybody. We've seen that when you've seen championships won by Tim Bollier with Jake Locker and Jay Villing. I just mentioned with Mike Glennon. Oh, you want to have the great quarterback. Build a real strong team, and you might be able to do it with an okay card or a fill-in card, like when Zeb won. Real strong card, but it was pretty much a one-year guy, But Joe felt that he likes Jameis Winston. You feel like he is a good long-term franchise quarterback. He's very young, 22, maybe 26 teenagers, just to make it easy. Because we already know what they did in that NFL season. Now Winston, I don't know. His completion percentage slightly lower than you'd like. Picks slightly higher than you'd like. He easily passed the ESPN total QBR number for young quarterback success, so that should be good. So Joe felt like, hey, if I can get this guy and give him a quarterback the next 10, 12 years, the rest of my team, and I've still got Alex Smith who's better. Maybe he's going to trade Alex Smith and do a total rebuild. I don't know. Joe seems a little caught in no man's land at times. I know I know Joe well. We played in a lot of leagues together a couple of years after I first met him online through one of Dennis's leagues. But I know he embraced a lot of my concepts with long-term building early on. But he got frustrated with the losing. So I think he's a little bit of no man's land. I'm not certain. But he didn't have to give up much to move up now because Butch has got Matt Ryan, infamously, who tried to trade to me last year, but it was overturned by the TRC, precipitating the complete breakup and dismantling of my team and where I am now. But I'm happy where I am now, so it worked out fine for me. So he's got, who's about Alex Smith's age, I think. He's about 33 or so. Maybe a little younger, I think 31. Devonta Freeman for the year. So what is he to do? I mean, I think a lot of people would have said, well, stay at 2 and draft David Johnson. He's going to trade him, maybe try to trade down. But the problem was nobody was really looking to trade up a whole lot for Winston. I mean, if Mariota wasn't a Duck, I don't know if Jeff would have trade to move up, for Winston. It was more about Mariota than was Jeff just wanting to get a quarterback. And I talked about this last year with guys on the TRC and other guys just in chatting or whatever. Look, we're in an era where the NFL is pass happy. There's 32 NFL teams. There's 24 teams in our league. There's going to be a couple of teams not going for the year. They don't care who the quarterback is. So you're going to have 21 quarterback spots to fill from 32 starting NFL quarterbacks. Almost everybody's putting up decent numbers, So it can be hard, I think, to get guys to really give up for a quarterback unless they think he's super top-notch. And I think some people aren't sure how they feel about Winston. He'll probably be at least okay, I think. I think you can to solidify that position. So the best offer that Butch got was a third-round pick, which Joe had also offered me to move from 4 to 1 when I had 1 overall. And I said, no way. I was getting way more from Jeff, of course. So that was the move. 4th pick overall and his 3rd-round pick for the 2nd pick in the draft. He drafted Jameis Winston. And Butch went back to 4 and picked up a 3rd-round pick. Butch feels like he's got a pretty decent team for the year and wanted some more help for the now. Okay? So just like in the NFL, Mariota Winston won 2, although we had the reverse order. Now drafting 3 was Lawrence, who was with us in the studio. And Lawrence was looking corner. He's thinking Marcus Peters, thinking Malcolm Butler. We actually spoke a little bit before the draft, or maybe right before he got on the clock. And he was leaning Marcus Peters and wanted to know what I thought of him. I told him I liked him a lot. Very good pick. I think he's like that super athlete, kind of like Patrick Peterson. He's got the PFF grade. I had him as my number 1 corner on the board. I'm going to share a little bit of my draft info. I'm not as big into SOMIFA, even though I won the title there last year. So if you see it, you see it, whatever. There's 12 of you in SSFA and SOMIFA, I think. So yeah, I had Peters as the number 4 player on my board because I like David Johnson, but him as the first defensive player on my board. On my board, only had 19 guys this year. That doesn't mean I was only planning on drafting 19 players, but only like the super blue chips. And otherwise, I would just go down each of my position tabs as I was getting closer to my pick and see who I liked. I had each position ranked, of course, top 15 centers, top 15 tackles, whatever the number was, 20, 25, whatever. So Marcus Peters goes to Lawrence. I think he's going to be really happy with that. I think he's going to be a perennial 6 for many, many years. An exciting player. And I love corner 6s, so I think that helps him. I think Lawrence has got Matthew Stafford. Where I really miss Dennis is his ability to scroll up. Not that I don't miss him otherwise, but He's got Matthew Stafford, so Stafford's got plenty of shelf life. He's 28 years old. Peter's going to be a corner six for a long time. Those are important. I mean, even if you only get the one corner six, so you can't get a second one. You pretty much never have to double that guy. I mean, if you have a 4 or 5 on the other side, you could be like, you know what? I'll just let my guy play man, so to speak, in NFL terms, and I'll double elsewhere. Maybe I'll occasionally double on the 6 to catch him. But it's really, I mean, it helps your offense tremendously. That's one of the reasons I like the double barrel corner 6s. I feel like my free safety can do whatever he wants. I don't like to give you a wrong call with no men on long pass because of the extra receiver readings. But if I'm going to get pass, I feel like I can move my free safety around a lot. So I'd rather have you throw, I think, a no men long pass against my 6 than one man with a free safety 4 or something. Anyway, Lawrence took Marcus Peters. Interesting that he didn't go for David Johnson. I wasn't sure what Todd Gurley was going to go, how much he would fall, because he had the bad year this year. I mean, we were all gaga over Gurley this time last year, so I wasn't sure where he was going to go. Lawrence picked up running backs later on, T.J. Yeldon and Amir Abdullah. Gillisley is going to have a real good card next year, I think. It's a great card. I bet you he has a top 6 or 7 card in the set easy. He had 5.7 yards a carry, a plethora of 10-yard runs, 10-plus yard runs. He'll have big runs. I don't think he'll be chunky. It was a run-first team. They didn't pass the ball. So, I mean, they may have had more passing attempts than rushing attempts because almost everyone does nowadays. I'd have to check that. But you know what I mean. They're not a passing team. Under Rex, anyway, this past season. He's gone now, of course. So Butch took David Johnson 4. About that, he didn't think Johnson was going to fall to him. So now he's got Matt Ryan, David Johnson, and Devonta Freeman. That's a nice setup for the next 4 or 5 years. He thinks he has a good team this year. Got good picks to keep adding players or to trade. That's always good. Half man, half Mankiewicz went 5th. Took Todd Gurley. A lot of people were wondering, where is Todd Gurley going to go? Wondering, is he going to make it to me at number 10? Is there number 10? I was reviewing his highlights this morning. I did my offensive skill players. The offensive skill players so well. I could have probably, but I feel like you need more work with the other stuff, especially with that, including the stats. And if you watch the NFL at all this past season, you're going to know something about most of these guys, or maybe you've seen them play. Grabbed Gurley number 5. Paul, we all know, great coach. He's capable of going all the way or of going far or whatever you want to say. And usually has a good quarterback. There's nobody here. Let's see who his quarterback is. And he's got Tyrod Taylor and Ryan Fitzpatrick. So Taylor's got a really good, nice card this year, though. Low turnover, good flat pass. Short pass isn't bad. You can throw short or bomb more. He said you had Todd Gurley. And plus, if Gurley becomes a really good player long term, then it's kind of okay that your quarterback is not as good. I mean, if you could get that great running card, if he does become the next Adrian Peterson or Jamal Charles, who's a great card every year, you can easily get by with just an okay quarterback or whatever, better than the great quarterback and the okay running back. The only thing is that the more consistent. If you got Brady or Breeze or Rodgers, they're going to give you a great card every year. Give you a great card every year, and he's back, get injured and miss an entire season, or AP is chunky this year. Charles has had injury problems. But GM, I kind of feel like the guys were really good GMs. They can find starters later in the draft. They can shoot for the home run a little more. As long as Paul doesn't go back to drafting all those quarterbacks like he did a few years ago. I hated that move by him. He was drafting like Blaine Gabbert and all these guys, and maybe even Christian Ponder. That might have been in SOMIFA. And I was like, he already has a really good team. Why is he drafting all these? He already has like Drew Brees and a really good team. I was like, if he just drafted his regular guys elsewhere in the field, I mean, with Drew Brees, he'd be in good shape, Of course, Paul is better than me, so I shouldn't be one to tell him, but that's, we're talking the league and talking about moves that get made. Boring if I just, it was wonderful. But I'm working on being less critical on these shows. I don't have all the answers. I do a lot of work, and I think I do pretty well, but I don't have all the answers. And this was the SOMIFA draft. I know Brandon wanted me to try and incorporate that. I keep forgetting. Maybe we'll try to do a show just on that. I don't know. Yeah, because this show is going to be long enough. I don't know if that's material for a whole show, comparing fall to spring draft. And I've got a lot of leagues I'm in as well. The draft here it is. Okay. Number 6. So this is going to be interesting once you got the defensive players. I think a lot of us thought Marcus Peters would be super high. Vic Beasley could have been the first defensive player off the board. What do you have? 14.5 sacks? Something like that. You know, and he was a very high NFL pick and a great looking athlete on film. Doesn't have the best PFF grades. But I really feel like when you're looking at coverage, it seems to me, I could be wrong, it seems to me like some of these pass rushing stud OLBs, Strat's giving them a pretty good pass rating PFF grade. Maybe they're figuring you're going to blitz them all the way. I mean, personally, I think they should go the other way. You may, you know, Vic Beasley was an All-Pro, so maybe like Dwight Freeney used to get, he might get a 6, and everyone's going to complain. They used to complain about Freeney. They probably don't know Beasley well enough to complain, but let's say Beasley wasn't an All-Pro. Let's say he only had 11 sacks, whatever. Yeah, if they gave him a 4 pass coverage, and it was like a 4-12 with a 4 asterisk, you have 4. If he's a 6, you might leave him home with sometimes, you know? Bowen, I think, is the example I used a couple of years ago, had a tremendous rating, like a 56-12 with like a 9 asterisk or some kind of crazy number. And I think his pass coverage grade in PFF was not that great. I guess they were saying, well, if you leave him back there, he's not as stiff. It's just that you're usually going to blitz him. So split ratings are new. So we're not even sure yet what's going to happen there, you know? So, but Joe Golden has joined us. Hello, Joe.
Hello.
We just reviewed your team, Joe.
Oh.
Well, I'm going through the first round. We just did your first round.
Well, I hope we remember.
James Winston. Well, I was. There's nothing to be. Winston. So let me ask you a question since I have you here. How much do you like Winston?
Can you hear me?
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know I had a microphone even. I don't like him a hell of a lot. I mean, I didn't want to get stuck with Smith, and I don't. It seems like you can't get a quarterback in this league unless you draft one early. And
I hear.
So I figured I might as well roll the dice with Winston. If I knew Johnson was going to fall down to 4, I would have waited for Johnson.
I was wondering that because I was saying that I could see, Alex Smith. Yeah, he's got pretty nice cards now, and he's low turnover, and he's top 10 technically. But I can see what people aren't that excited with him, which seems to be the case both in the NFL and in Strat. More with him in Strat than in the NFL, but maybe that's harsh towards him. Look, all you gave up was a 3rd-round pick. You got a quarterback who looks pretty good, was number 1 overall, and if he comes through, you've got him for 10, 12 years, and you can take your time building the rest of your team. Is that your approach?
On the other hand, I traded David Johnson and Bud Dupree for him, so theoretically. So it seems like a lot.
Well, maybe, yeah. So are you considering? Are you considering trading Alex Smith? Are you considering trading Alex Smith now, or because he's got this superior card?
I like his card. I like being able to play with the pistol. I think he's got a good card for this season.
Sure, he definitely does. Is your team? Does your team look playoff bound?
I'm looking at the 500 season, so maybe I can sneak in
on the bubble.
I mean, my whole draft was for the future. I don't think I looked at the ratings for this year for a single player I drafted.
Okay, cool. But yeah, it's always interesting to when you get somebody on and they made a big move to hear what they're thinking. So we're going down the first round. If you want to, Joe, feel free to chime in on any of these players if you want to participate.
I think I mentioned it once before. I've got Winston now in one league, Mariota in the other, and David Carr in the other. So
yes, you got young quarterbacks.
Hopefully each year, one of those will have a really good year.
Well, hopefully at least 2, I think, would be. Well, maybe all 3. I mean, I think Carr and Mariota seem pretty safe. Winston, I think, is the one where you're not sure that the completion percentage is going to be there if the interception is going to be low enough. But his ESPN total QBR numbers, which have been pretty good at projecting young quarterbacks, have been good. So, he's very young. He's like 22. So sometimes you got to give these guys a year or 2. And it's not like he's been bad so far. He just hasn't been great so far. You know what I mean?
Yep. Well, yep.
Yeah. All right. So
but again, I wish I would have stayed at 4 the way it ended up.
Okay. So moving on down, Cleveland. That was Michael Reeves, who's the new coach. Well, it's his second year. I think last year was Buffalo. This was his first year drafting. I know Michael a little bit, which was quite a bit over the last year or so. Took Jadeveon Clowney, so he was the first front seven player to go off the board. To me, it was really, really interesting as I was looking at edge players, whatever you want to call them, defensive ends. That you had Vic Beasley, Jadeveon Clowney, Leonard Williams, Daniil Hunter, Marcus Golden. I mean, there was a lot of very talented defensive end outside linebacker. And Beasley had all the sacks this year, was a high NFL pick. Clowney was the number one pick a couple of years ago, had a healthy season and played really, really well. Hunter I love with all the sacks he's been getting in part-time work, for goodness sake. Leonard Williams is super solid. Marcus Golden was a second-round pick who got a bunch of sacks. So I'm sorting out those guys. Now, I don't know if you bothered to because you were drafting second. Did you have a hierarchy for those types of positions, or –
No. Well,
okay.
See, no, I will for the next draft, but not for this one. But I'm trying to remember the guy. The other Hunter is another one that I really like, but I wouldn't take him this high up. So
Daniel Hunter, you're saying?
Yes. I'm going to have this choice in another league. I think so.
Okay. Well, what number are you picking at in that league?
I'm picking 4, 11, and 20 something. I'm hoping at 11.
Very nice. You hoping what?
I'm hoping at 11 that I have a shot at, well, hopefully one of those two defensive linemen.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, but anyway, so there's this group of 4 or 5 guys. I wasn't sure how to rate them. They're all so close together. That's one thing I like when I do these shows, or even when you're rating guys in the draft. It's like, look, Vic Beasley and Jadeveon Clowney both look like excellent players. So yeah, I'm going to put one. I'm going to put one over the other because if I get on the clock and they're both there, I got to choose one. I can't choose both, unfortunately, with my one pick. So I think sometimes the shows, if you say, I like this guy a little better, Vic Beasley, or you're knocking Jadeveon Clowney. No, I'm not knocking Jadeveon Clowney, but I got to put somebody ahead of somebody. So, but in that position for this year, I thought it was really hard. And I knew all these guys were going to go between like 6 and 16 or something. I mean, especially Clowney, Beasley, Leonard Williams, those 3 guys were definitely going to go very highly. And it was a matter of where. So Michael made the decision to make Jadeveon Clowney the first one off the board. I have no problem with that. He'll probably be a defensive end 6 next year, but only like 6 or 7 sacks. So he'll be like a 6-7. So he's not going to give you the pass rush that Vic Beasley will give you 6. Vic Beasley was first team All-Pro. We'll see if he gets 6s. Now, here was the curveball. Detroit, there's Don Morton taking Tyler Lockett. I'm not sure how good that team is. I'm gonna assume it's decent. It's interesting with Lockett. I just felt like there's so many blue chip, like defensive players. We just talked about Leonard Williams and Vic Beasley. Amari Cooper was there. It's nice to have. He's a great return man right now, but I mean, his next year stats, 26.3 kick return average next year. When the guy's kicking it 8 yards into the end zone, you're not going to take that out, especially when the touchback will be at the 25. And his punt returns are only okay. I think he's a pretty good receiver. Maybe he'll become a good receiver, but he's certainly no Amari Cooper. And then
I'm not a big fan, Tom, of taking a guy whose upside is in returns and not in receiving. That would be my
I agree with you there. We're all enamored with the idea that we're going to get the next Devin Hester or the next Dante Hall, but consistent returners come along infrequently. And I do think Lockett can be a very good receiver, but I don't think he is likely to be. He might be, but I don't think he's probably going to be the type of receiver that you would want to take in the top 10 of a Strat draft if you're looking just at his receiving. Nice guy to have. I felt it was too high, but we'll see what happens. I do like Lockett as a player, but there's just so much of the talent elsewhere. I wasn't a fan of that pick. I was surprised by that pick. Now, Miami's Bob.
There's a number of rock-solid studs, I think, that were still available.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see what happens. I'm trying to be a little kinder.
I pick in the top 5 every year, so my opinion isn't.
You've been future. You're a very good coach when you have a good team, in my opinion. So, or at least a decent team. So we have Miami going 8th. That's Bob, I believe, right? Yeah, I always get this Bob. This is the same Bob as Arizona in SOMIFA. Okay. I get him confused because he's not Arizona in this league, and Kurt's Arizona in this league. I think Kurt's with us. I think I saw him pop on for a minute. Yes, he's there with the microphone muted. And Bob grabbed Malcolm Butler, number 8. Crazy. In PFF, like a 91 or something crazy like that. Yeah, it was a 91 in coverage. And
he was my pick. If I didn't trade out of 4, I would have took him. Well, no, I would have took the running back. But if the 2 quarterbacks and the running back went, I really like this guy's gonna be a 6 again. Should be a 6 for a while. Cornerbacks are good.
Yeah, 6 now, 6 for a while. I do like Peters better because Peters is 3 years younger, also had a great PFF grade, and is like a super athlete. So Peters would be my guy, would take over Butler. But I couldn't complain with someone saying, well, look, Butler helps me now, and he's a guaranteed 6 next year. Peters' grade was like 84. Maybe he's only at 5. I think Peters will get a 6 next year. Very solid pick at 8, and you can't go wrong with corners. It was interesting to me because I'm known as a corners guy, but I already have Patrick Peterson. The whole discussion about how important pass rush is or isn't on the forum, and I was on the side of it's not as important, and Nathan and Dan Morin were like, it is important. But I was enamored this year of getting some of these guys like, Vic Beasley and Marcus Golden and Daniil Hunter and these type of guys. Because I already had Peterson, but I also wanted to get at least one of the safeties. So a good pick.
Well, if you've never had a team loaded with pass rush, now you find out if it's good.
Well, my SOMIFA team. Well, I mean, I played with pass rush before, and
this many
years. Oh yeah, sure.
Probably.
Like in summer sprint, now that was 1983, so there's a lot more sacks in the set then. But I had a team that had like 4 guys who were like a 10 or better, and was blitzing the hell out of people, and I did well that season. Now my SOMIFA team has got good pass rush, but not as good as this pass rush. But my team's not even really built for next year, and Lorenzo Alexander was really more just of a value pick when he's there. Don't be surprised if he's traded next year. I got him the first pick of the 4th round. So Alexander and Nick Perry, and they can't all play at the same time anyway. So, so number 9 was Washington. That is Keith Mowbray. Trade with him. I traded him Josh Norman and Marcus Lawrence for his 1 next year and his 2 this year, basically. He's got a pretty good club for the year, but wisely, I would say, because I didn't need that much for the year, he took Vic Beasley, who had a tremendous season, top 10 NFL pick, super athlete. I mean, you got to feel like, hey, I know his like coverage and run grades weren't the best, but he was first team All-Pro, so Strat might overlook that. Also, I'm thinking some of these guys that get a lot of sacks grades from Strat anyway. This is all new, the split ratings and the PFF, so I'm trying to figure that out. But you have to feel like Vic Beasley, number 9, is a very, very good pick, right, Joe?
Oh, yeah, and he's got a good team. At least I think he has a good team. So,
yeah, he definitely does.
I think that's a nice help.
Yeah, so he can sit on Vic Beasley for this year, no big deal. And the next year still be good. Because he has Phillip Rivers. He did throw, I think, a fair amount of picks this year, but I think his team next year might still be decent in Washington. But regardless, it's not like Vic Beasley's a 1-year guy. Huh?
Well, he's got Julio Jones out there, and he's got a nice secondary.
He's got a very strong-looking team. Then I was at number 10, and, it was interesting. I went by 19 guys on my big board, and I decided to share some stuff today, Joe, which you'd be happy about. Maybe not everything, but I shared some of it. And I had Byron Jones as the number 6 player on my entire board, my number 2 defensive player, okay, which might be a little crazy. I love this guy last year. I know most people wouldn't even have him as a number 1 safety, much less a number 1 or 2 defensive player. But, he's a super athlete. He's a true free safety. Look, I love Landon Collins too. Landon Collins is a great player. I just feel like the Landon Collins' style of play, so aggressive and physical near the line of scrimmage in the running game, could potentially lead to more injuries and maybe a little shorter period of being excellent. Byron Jones is a true athletic deep safety. He's not coming up around support nearly as much. I feel a little more confident in him. I think they're both going to get 6s next year. Collins will probably get a 66 because he was first team All-Pro. With his coverage grade, he could have possibly gotten only a 56. So, I think in the next 4 years, Collins will be better, but maybe after that, Jones will take over. But so I decided to go the way. I know sometimes I don't. I come up with some crazy ideas. decided I like Jones better, and I'm probably in the extreme minority. Were you surprised that I
Well,
took
I think
Jones
it's I
over
think it's because
Collins?
you're a Jet fan, so you're dissing the Giants. But Collins, I thought had a great year. I mean, I saw him play a lot.
We did.
He's all over the field.
Absolutely. I love Collins. So no,
Me
I don't. I'm a
personally, I
Jeff
guess my
fan,
point
but
is I would have taken Collins,
I
but
think
Jones is a hair different in my mind. So what's the difference?
yeah, two excellent players. Yeah, I'm a Jet fan, Joe, but I'm not a Giant hitting Jet fan. You know, I kind of feel like Jets Giants. Well, you should know this because you're an area guy.
Oh yeah,
Mets Yankees is no crossover. You might get
right.
the occasional Yankee fan where if the Mets are doing good. Oh, it's cute. The Mets are like the little brother or the cousin, you know, trying to succeed. You know, I'm a Mets fan. I go Mets and Jets. You probably go Yankees and Giants. Is that right, Joe?
Actually, Yankees Rams.
Oh, okay, so you're not a Giants fan. Okay.
But my daughter's a Giant fan, and I mean I'm here, so
Okay,
and
serious.
since the Rams teams are all taken, so I'm the Giants in every league. So I guess I gotta like them.
There you go. But yeah, no, I have no problem with the Giants or with Giants. So I would have no
Well, and
problem
Byron
with
Jones
Landon
is a
Collins.
great athlete, but I just saw Landon Collins all over the field.
Yeah, no,
Right?
yeah, he's a
He
great
was
player.
always there.
Absolutely. So anyways, I took Byron Jones, but he'll be real good anyway, I think, for a long time.
Yep.
Now, then Dan Warren went, and I was glad here because I'm drafting 14. Really wanted Danielle Hunter on my team here. You know, last year I think it was the first year that I really looked at defensive ends in video highlights,
Mm-hmm.
and this guy looked amazing. He looked amazing to me, and when I read about him, raw. That's why I slipped to the third round. And he was really young. He was like a 21-year-old rookie or something like that. And his tape was great. I saw him successfully bull rush Tyron Smith. He only had like 430 snaps. He had like 7.5 sacks and a really good run grade even from PFF, even though he's not the biggest defensive end in the world. And then this year he had 12.5 sacks. This guy has like 20 sacks in his first 1,000 NFL snaps. And he was behind Brian Robeson, which won't be the case next year. I even saw an interview with Brian Robeson after the season where he said, well, I think Hunter's earned the starting job. So I guess he realizes. I really think he's going to be a defensive player to have in all of Strat, like a 5-12 asterisk every year. And one of the things that was reinforced to me in this SOMIFA season, which is still ongoing, there. And when you have like a dominant defensive end who's an automatic asterisk, like a 12-5 or a 12-6, which answers this year, it's such a huge advantage. Now, I know Hunter's could probably be a 0 next year. I'm not worried about 1 year or 2 years. And I liked him a lot in the fall, but I missed out on him once, maybe to Dan Warren twice, because he went higher than I thought. I'm thinking, well, he's a late third-round pick. He's not scheduled to start. And then someone else gobbled him up. So I said, I really want him. But I was still going to stay with my big board. So I was happy when we got past my pick at 10, and you still had Amari Cooper, Leonard Williams, and Landon Collins on the board. Because I said, listen, hard for anyone to pass on. They're probably going to go like 11, 12, and 13, and then I can take Hunter 14. And if anyone takes Hunter instead, like Dan Warren, fine. I'll get Cooper or Leonard Williams or Landon Collins. I would have no problem taking Collins 14, even though I took Byron Jones 10. Why wouldn't you? I needed safeties. I needed 2, so why wouldn't you want Jones and Collins, right? And I've already got Peterson in one corner, so that would have been fine as well. But Dan, nothing wrong with Amari Cooper. I mean, he's a great receiver. He was playing a long time. The second half was a little bit of a letdown, but he might have been playing hurt based upon what I read at the end of the season. So, to me, you get a solid young receiver, 9-10 years. I have no problem with that because these guys seem to be very consistent. And you get 2 of those guys, you don't have to worry about receiver for like the next 7 or 8 drafts. What do you think about that?
And I think he was head and shoulder over the next receiver, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, it wasn't even close to me, and that's why we talked about Tyler Lockett.
The Snead people or whatever his name is, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why we talked about Lockett and Dom. I'm not trying to kill you, but I mean, I know Lockett can return, but I mean Cooper's so much better from a scrimmage, and the returning is nice, but I don't think it's enough to make you take Lockett over Cooper. Then Pittsburgh, we have a new guy, Dan T. I don't know his last name. We got Dan T. And I haven't looked over all the rosters, so I'm not sure what type of club Pittsburgh is. But he went for Brandon Scherf, the guard for Washington, who graded out solidly. I think he might have made – I'm not sure if he made the All-Pro team. But graded out solidly. He might be a 6'7 next year. He'll be probably at least a 6'5, maybe a 5'7, somewhere in that neighborhood. It was a guard-rich draft. When I looked at guards in this draft, ended up taking some of these stupid cards. I didn't even need them. But you had Scherf, Ali Marpet, Quentin Spain, Shaq Mason, and even after that, guy like John Miller, you know, and some other guys later on could do some things. Maybe Turner from Max Garcia or AJ Can. So there was a lot of really good cards in the draft.
Well,
Scherf was the best of them.
I think. Yeah, I think Scherf is a 10-year player, but the other thing, just mentioned Marpet. I was very surprised he went that far. Same thing with the guy Mance or whatever his name is, MANCZ,
Mance from Houston.
Center. Those guys went a long time. Yeah. You know, Marpet went, in my opinion, a long time. Good pick.
Yeah,
10-year pick.
Marpet lasted to 33, and yeah, offensive linemen. A lot of times these guys are good for like 12 years, forget even 10 years. So I mean, it's one of the most durable positions. A big fan of taking guys who are going to play positions for a long time. So I don't know what this Pittsburgh team looks like. I think it's a fine pick. Personally, I think Leonard Williams or Landon Collins, especially Landon Collins, maybe, or even Daniil Hunter, at those positions, it feels like it's so much harder to get real quality. I mean, safety is maybe not the most important position in the world, but you know, I feel like you can always get a guard. But some of the other positions are a little harder to get real quality. So, excellent player. He's a Pro Bowler perennially, probably, and a long-term pick. It was just interesting to me what different people prioritize and think about. So then Leonard Williams fell to them with 13, and I wouldn't even say fall because I think that I expected him to fall. You know, Brad wanted us to look at as opposed to the SSFA draft. Williams was number 4 overall, but you didn't know as much yet about Vic Beasley or even Malcolm Butler or Jadeveon Clowney. There were more questions on some of these guys. You know, Brandon Scherf fell down to 18. Byron Jones was 21, even though he was a 5. Landon Collins, of course, was like a second-round pick. It's Ron Dickinson or Ron Martin who got Byron Jones in the first round in the fall, 3rd round. So he got his 2 safeties for a long time in the 1st and 3rd round. So that's pretty awesome. I think that's Ron Dickinson. Yeah, because Ron Martin is Pittsburgh in SOMIFA.
Well, and you never know with the Jets. The Jets are dysfunctional. I mean, I saw him play the Rams. It's amazing how bad 2 teams can be. So you never know. That line is in flux. You got 2 players on the Jets that don't even want to play. So
yeah, well, they're probably going to get rid of Sheldon. Leonard's a real good player, but I'm not surprised he slipped. Like, he's only a 5'3" this year. That's not going to, be a difference maker for you, really. He might get a 6 next year. Didn't have a ton of sacks. I love Leonard Williams a lot. I think he went about where he should go. Both of us are saying, no surprise he slipped some. I think he's an excellent player. He's very young, so Buffalo did well, I think. And I think he'll be good.
No, I think it's a fine pick right there. I really do.
Yeah. Then I took Daniil Hunter. I already waxed.
Good pick at 13.
Yeah, absolutely. And I took Daniil Hunter. I already waxed prolifically about him. So you're saying that you feel like that Daniil Hunter was drafted too highly. You did not like him at 14, correct?
No, Hunter. No. I'm saying I would have been torn between Hunter and Beasley. Incidentally, for the record, I'm the one that got Hunter I'm the one that got Hunter in SOMIFA. So.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that he didn't fall to you, but that's neither here nor there.
Yes, well, you and I noticed you and I tend to like some of the same players, even when I don't leak my my ratings spreadsheet. So it was the 2nd round, so SSFA last year. You wanted DeMarcus Lawrence, and I took him, and you set up for Western Richburg, who I really wanted. So.
And I had Lawrence in my another draft league, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay. So, Daniil Hunter, 14 to me. I like him a lot. So, I started with Byron Jones, Daniil Hunter. A lot of defensive talent I felt like from 6 to 20 was going to go in this draft. I was drafting 10, 14, and 20. And I was hoping to get at least a couple of guys there, maybe 3, but certainly at least 2. Number 15,
Collins now. I mean, there's a guy I think that's really sweet right there.
Oh, absolutely. You NFL led the commission. I'm a big Landon Collins fan too. I like Byron Jones.
After your post, I wasn't sure if I thought maybe you were going to take him to go with Jones, but
I thought about it, but I was so frustrated missing Hunter in the 4. I said, you know what, I don't care. But no, I absolutely, I thought about it. It really wasn't until this morning early that I finalized my top 19, so to speak. But yeah, the commissioner, Ed, of course, makes a great pick as Landon Collins at 15. We already talked about him. He definitely probably one of the 3 or 4 best defensive players in the draft. I think I'm in the extreme minority taking Jones over him. And I understand that. I think probably Beasley. I don't know. There's so many good players here. But I mean, Beasley, Marcus Peters, Malcolm Butler, Collins. I mean, maybe those are your top 5, maybe for most people. So great pick by him. And then you go on to Houston Texans. Darby's a 5. He had a great rookie year. Did not grade out well this year in PFF at all. He was only
I traded up for him, and I traded up for him in SOMIFA, and it doesn't seem to be working out so well.
Well, it's only 1 year. That's one thing we got to realize. He only got a 66 in coverage this year in PFF, so he's probably going to get a 4. But look, this guy is 22 years old in 2016. He had a really good rookie year. From what I read, that PFF says that sometimes the corner grades go up and down a little bit, except for the guys who are truly the elite normally. So I mean, Darby can bounce back pretty easily. Tried to trade him, Josh Norman, for this pick. He's got a pretty good team for the year. Brad does, and he rebuffed me. He rejected me. They ended up taking Darby. I thought he might have rather Norman because they had a pretty good team with Tom Brady. But so Darby's interesting. I in the fall I like Butler better than Darby. Dennis was chastising me for that, but it worked out well for me. And I'm wrong on plenty of players. So I can say something like that, and it sounds self-serving. But there's plenty of players I was wrong on in the fall. Guys I love to haven't done anything yet. Some of the young hopefully can bounce back, like Demarius Randall, or maybe he's going to be a bust. So I'm definitely wrong on plenty of guys.
He's got a lot of football left in front of him. So
absolutely, yeah. Number 17, Matt Paradis. This was an interesting pick to me because when I was first getting ready for SSFA draft, I was like, boy, Matt Paradis, he'd be great to get. He was a little older for a prospect. It's like 26, 27 card, but he had crazy grades. 84 pass blocking, number 1 center in the draft. I mean, anything over 90 in PFF was like very rare. I mean, normally like 80.
You figure he's going to be 5'7". He's going to be a 5'7", so that's not a.
He's going to be a 6.
I'm happy to have a 5'7".
91 is definitely a 6.
No, 7. Oh, is that run? I thought it was pass.
I say run first, but 6 will be run. So, but yeah, he'll be a 6'7" or 6'5".
No, I mean his 90 rating was in pass.
Run blocking, 91 run blocking, and the pass blocking for the lineman, you can't always go just by that because you have to see how many sacks the team had. They almost ignore the pass blocking in terms of what strat rating is going to get the next year, because they are replicating. Very good, and they weren't sacked that often, so he'll be fine. But yeah, Strat's trying to replicate the sacks, while PFF is grading if you allow pressures and hits and hurries and all that type of stuff, where Strat's pass rush system is all or nothing, sack or nothing. It doesn't matter that you hurry the quarterback. But last week, and I was actually emailing with Dennis and Michael Reese. He was asking me my opinion on certain things, such as drafting Matt Paradis early in the second round. But I saw on PFF that he was having hip surgery on one hip and may need to have it on a second hip, which I view as an unfavorable development. I don't know about you, Joe. But,
no, I didn't hear that, but yeah,
so
that's a red flag.
So that concerns me. Now, Randy might have missed that. It only happened like a week ago. It's hard to catch everything when you're preparing for the draft. And look, let's face it, I've got a disability. I don't work. I've got way more time than these leagues to look at things. And even I'm not going to catch everything. So a full-time job, I'm married with a kid, whatever. He's got it harder in terms of trying to catch everything. So I can see if Randy missed that, or maybe Randy said, I don't care. He's got a good card next year, or if he feels like, all right, he's having hip surgery, but it'll be fine. It might just be the one hip, I don't recall. So, but that's something to watch out for in the off season.
Now we got. Nope. Well, we'll see. At least I got a whole season to see. Spencer Ware. That's
right. Did you get Spencer? You said you like him or don't like him?
I do like him.
Yeah, I like Spencer Ware too. It's funny. We all know Spencer Ware.
The Chiefs have been able to run the ball, it seems like, since there was bread. So,
yeah, well, they have for a long time. That's just true. You go back to even before Jamal Charles, you've got Larry Johnson and Priest Holmes and stuff like that. So you're right about that. I hadn't thought of that before.
Icky Shuffle. Love my favorite commercial.
That's the Bengals. Icky Shuffle.
Oh, was he? Okay. No. Okay. Who's the one that was doing the? Not him. Who does the commercial from the Chiefs where he slams the salami, or the hammer?
I don't know.
Never mind.
Okay.
Too much scotch.
Moving on. Okay. But Spencer 18. Now we all know Spencer Ware's got a great card. And in the fall drafts, he was looked at as a 1-year guy, and they got Jamal Charles and blah 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 blah. Tape and saying, I kind of like Spencer Ware. He looks pretty good. I don't think he's necessarily a 1-year guy. And I said that after Ed got him, I think in the late second round. And he had a nice solid year. Didn't have a lot of 20-plus yard runs. Didn't have a lot of 10-plus yard runs either. Average, caught the ball well with a good average. Should have a nice solid card. Might not have as exciting a card as you like, but you also look, you're getting a very, very good card for the year. And this is the Saints with Scott. Is it the Saints coach, Joe? Do you know?
No, I'm not good with the names.
You're not good with the names. Okay. Yeah, that's Scott.
No, that's why I'm an engineer, not an attorney. I have no memory.
Well, I think that Scott is actually got Andrew Luck. Oh, I don't know how good his team is for this year. But maybe, like we said, he just likes Spencer Ware, period. You know what I'm saying? Ryan Tannehill. Okay. He's got a decent quarterback. Okay. And actually, he needed a running back badly. So you get Spencer Ware.
I was hoping he would drop to 2-1 on a miracle, but no luck. Incidentally, thank you for that pick. That was
well, thank the trade, the TRC. That pick would have been the end of the round. I'm guaranteeing you. If they, I would not have blown up that team if they didn't have return the trade. But it's worked out good for me, and it worked out good for you.
Trade, I know.
It's worked out pretty good for everybody, so it's fine. And I like started the way this team is going, so I'm fine with it. Now, you already have Mike Tolbert, who's got a very nice card, limited in terms of usually 62 carries. So you get Spencer Ware to complement that. So now you got two very good cards for an unlimited half, and you already have Ryan Tannehill. You could use another back in there, but again, Spencer was not a 1-year guy, and Scott's done a really good job rebuilding this team. He took this team over like 3 or 4 years ago, and Joe, they were one of those teams. They had like Peyton Manning and like nothing else, and he traded Peyton Manning to me for a pretty penny. And he's done a great job just building the team. And you look what he's got. You got Ryan Tannehill, you got Spencer Ware, you got AJ Green, DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's got Zach Ertz. So he's got like a pretty nice, solid team coming along. See Justin Pugh, Jack Mewhort, Riley Reef, Khalil Mack. Hello,
Montgomery. Right?
Montgomery. Did you have Ty Montgomery? There he is. There you go. I didn't see that.
Third round,
yeah. We're going to go team by team after we get to the first round. But so he's done a nice job in Spencer Ware. And that's the thing. I was talking about this with somebody. With Brad Lane, because I called his Chicago playoff game for SOMIFA earlier tonight, which is on the SOMIFA forum. Shameless plug. There's no advertising, so I don't even know why I should bother plugging it. But, I was saying that I think that when it comes to like quarterback and running back, thing like, okay, if I take a quarterback or running back in the first round, he has to be great. He has to be great to justify the pick. But look, you take a running back number 18. If you took an outside linebacker number 18, if you took Marcus Golden and Golden didn't pan out, nobody would be like, oh, what a bust that pick was. You know what I'm saying? But there's something about, I took a running back, so he's got to become a stud, or I took a quarterback, he's got to become that every year guy. We don't know how good Spencer Ware is going to be. We know he's got a real good card right now. He should have a solid card next year. He's a pretty good looking back. So even if he's never in the league, but is always like a number 9 to 15 type of back, that would be fine. That's very helpful to your team.
Oh, yeah.
You feel like guys have that mindset?
I would love to have had him.
Say what?
I said I would have loved to have had him. So yeah.
Do you think guys get that mindset? Forget quarterback for a second, because this is a special position, but about a first round running back. Do you think guys, like if they're not going for the year, it's different. You got Dennis, he's got a real good team. He takes Thomas Rawls here, and you draft a running back late first round. Do you think the mindset of the guys is, all right, this guy has to become like a real stud, otherwise I wasted the pick? Or you think I'm misreading that?
I mean, no. I think you got to roll the dice like I did with Winston. I like Yaji, whatever you want to call him. I was hoping to get either one of those. I don't have a good long term running back. So I mean, what are you going to do? Wait for nobody? So sometimes you just got to take it. I mean, I heard you said he already has, but.
Yeah, well, he needed Spencer Ware. All he had was Mike Tolbert. So, then number 19.
What are you gonna do if you lose out on Ayaje and Coleman and Rawls, and next thing you know, you're picking the next round, and what's your choice?
Yeah,
T.J.
exactly.
Yeldon,
Sure.
And so then you're going to next year saying, "Shit, I better draft a running back."
Yeah. Well, that is another way to do it, though, is to go kind of year to year and say, I'll plug in or trade for running backs if the rest of the team is strong enough. But no, if you got a guy there, worry too much about that he becomes a star. If if you think he's pretty good, take him. And Ware looks very solid and well rounded. No.
Mm-hmm.
Now, number 19, Bedard McKinney was one of my favorite players from the fall. And a very solid season. I did not have him as he was my number one inside linebacker in the fall. And I know Brad talked about the fall drafts. What did I get him? I got him at number 31 in the fall, 2.7. But I did put Jordan Hicks, I think, ahead of him this time. No, I still have McKinney number one. But on my big board, actually, I put Hicks one slot ahead of him. So different types of linebackers. Hicks is smaller and faster. He got a 92 in coverage. McKinney's bigger and can do both more. You see Hicks only got the 51. So McKinney might get you a 55. Hicks might get you a 64. McKinney had some sacks this year, which will help him as well. Both, but again, just like we talked about with the safeties, or like you can talk about with Vic Beasley and Jadeveon Clowney, you're talking about two very, very good players.
Yeah, they were a flip a coin for me too. I needed an inside linebacker. I would have been ecstatic if either one of them. At this point, I was hoping one of them would slide to 2-1, but it didn't work out that way.
Yeah, that's the type of pick I like. I mean, late first round, McKinney, very solid player. Is he going to get sixes? We don't know, but he's probably always going to be like 54, 55. I'm sure he probably will get a couple of sixes throughout his career. But a very, very solid player, and I like those guys. You need those guys. Even if McKinney is not going to be Ray Lewis, if he's like a 55 every year, that's pretty good.
Oh yeah, that's a spot you don't have to worry about year in, year out. You might not be a stud, but year in, year out, you got a spot filled. Nice.
Also, I was feeling like before this year's draft, I was feeling like it was getting harder to find good inside linebackers with the split ratings and stuff. Guys were 46s, guys were 50s. So it's a bit of a position of scarcity right now, equality. So you're getting a solid player in a position where it seems hard to fill guys right now. Then I was going 20th, my third first-round pick. This was from the Jason Vera trade. Nathan. And I drafted Jay Ajayi. I don't know how to pronounce either, Joe, but he's on my team. And it's funny because I really was not terribly interested in him. 20-plus yard carries. I was worried he'd be chunky. I had liked him a little bit last year, but not enough to draft him. And it shows why you draft the best player available. Talking about the SOMIFA draft from September, Jeff Bevier, who was Philly in that league, took Todd Gurley second overall. And then fifth round, he takes Jay Ajayi. Now, you could have said, I don't need a running back. I took Gurley 1.2. Ajayi is good to more than one guy. Maybe Gurley has an injury history. I'll take Ajayi. Then what happens? Gurley has a lousy season. Mm-hmm. Ajayi has a good season. Now he still has a good running back next year.
I agree. It's nice having two running backs. You never know, season in, season out, who's going to be good. Just like you said, Gurley was terrible this year. I watched every game. He just
personally, I don't think it was his
medicated or something.
Well, I don't think it was his fault. I think
he couldn't see a hole. He couldn't see a hole. He ran into his lineman play after play after play. If he would have bounced out, he could have got big yards. He just seemed to run into his own guys play after play after play.
You are the Rams fan, so I'll defer to you on that.
I watch every game, so.
Okay.
But, I really wanted to watch plays over again, to see what holes they had. It's not a happy thing.
Right. But all the little things you can look at.
Listen, I got to jump out because I've got to go do a battle royal pick.
All right, good. Thanks for joining us, Joe. Right, take care.
Thank you. Good, cool.
So that was Joe Golden joining us. You can see he's at the top of his head there. Oh, he's gone now. He has to make a battle royal pick in Dynasty League. Very important. It is. They draft 1 round to 9 for 10 rounds. Pretty good. You go that way, 11 rounds. You draft a unit like you draft the Seahawks linebackers or whatever. Who's talking there?
How's your back?
Corey who?
I'm just turning in this essay tag on my back.
I know who this guy is, so I'm going to mute his microphone.
Cartel shit.
He's enjoying cursing at us. That's nice. Muted his microphone. So sorry, Corey. Yeah, probably because I made this thing public, or maybe I don't know, whatever. Anyway, late first round. So Jay Ajayi, number 20 overall to my Jets. Interesting. I wrote some decent things about him in the fall, but I didn't take him. It wasn't like I was in love with him, but I do think I maybe fall in love with these running backs and wide receivers too much at times. You know, and if you'd have been there in the right spot, maybe I would have taken him. But Jeff Bevier got him. It's like Christine Michael, who I loved when he was coming out, and of course has been a bust. I got him in the fourth round, so it's not too bad. But Joe was talking about having multiple running backs when we saw what Jeff did. Yeah, I like having a stable of 3 or 4 backs. You know, even if you have one real good one, you know, you can draft guys in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round if you have the room to do it. Who you think might be okay. I think you're more likely to get a good card in one of those seasons. So I was worried about Ajayi being chunky, but I took a look at it. I'm supposed to be locking my own screen, I think. Yes, that's what I'm doing wrong. He had, I think, 260 carries, and 10 of them were for 20 yards or more. So almost 4% of his carries were, which is a territory that can make you chunky. I feel like the closer you get to 5%, I noticed that in some guys. In past years, you know, Dan did his thing looking at that last year. First, we thought there was a strong correlation. Now it seems less certain. We had a discussion about this on the forum like 4 or 5 weeks ago. Nathan was talking about looking at the 10-yard carries. So looked at Ajayi's 10-yard carries. Well, let me backtrack. I looked at that to find guys who had good short gains on their card, like Devonta Freeman last year, Tevin Coleman last year, Marshawn Lynch's last good card. And those 3 cards for those 3 seasons, Coleman, because they were on the exact same NFL team and exact same strat team, neighborhood about one 10-yard run every 7.5 to 8.3 carries. Okay? So you had one 10-yard run about every 7.5 to 8.3 carries. And those guys had good short gains on the card. Now, there's a lot else that goes into it. You know, the strength of schedule, what type of quarterback you have in the team. If you have a weak strat quarterback, you're likely to get a better running card. We've seen that with the Browns a couple of times. I think that was what was going on maybe with Terrence West. But anyway, so the neighborhood was about 1 every 7.5 to 1 like every 8. If it's a run first team, you're going to get a better card. They gave those guys short gains, okay? And Atlanta certainly wasn't a run first team that year. Now, Ajayi had 39 carries of 10 yards or more. 30 carries of 10 yards or more on 260 attempts on every 6.5. Every 6.5 carries, he had a run for 10 yards or more, which that's way better than the numbers I saw for Freeman and Lynch and Coleman, Tevin Coleman. So I said, well, he has a pretty good overall average, 4.9. Miami threw the ball about 470 times. They ran about 407. It's not that bad. Most teams are out of whack further. So you know what? Maybe Ajayi's going to be chunky. I'm not sure. But maybe he's going to have a really good short gain card. I'm not sure. And I have no running backs at all, like literally no running backs who can do anything. I've got Danny Woodhead and Andre Williams. Hello. So even though there were other guys in the draft later that I liked, I was going to try to get Mike Gillisley, who's going to have a great card next year, in my opinion. I would like to get Ty Montgomery, who might have an interesting card next year. He's got the attempts. You know, he's on a team with a new head coach where, look, Ajayi is clearly Miami's number 1 back. They have a new head coach this past season who used him that way. That coach is probably going to be there for a couple of years. His card has a chance to be real good next year, or it could be chunky. I'm not saying it's definitely not going to be. You know, maybe it's a coin flip, 50-50. We'll see what happens. But I had so many picks and no running backs, I felt like it was worth to take them there. It's taking Jordan Hicks or Frank Clark or some other guys, or Marcus Golden, who I ended up getting later. But I went for Ajayi, and we'll see how he does. You know, we'll see how he does. Then looking at 21, this is interesting. Dennis and I, as you know, are good friends. Dennis is drafting 23rd as a good team for the year, could really use a running back for the year. And I haven't been that big on Tevin Coleman. I just feel like he lacks elusiveness to make the first tackler miss. He's a smaller guy at 6'1", 210, and has had injury problems both this year and last year. Has had some fumble problems. Going into the last 2 games of the NFL season this year, he was only averaging 3.8 yards a carry. Had 2 really good games to end the season to bump that average up to 4.4. Chunky next year. Only one every 12 carries or so with 10 yards or more. But I know a lot of people like him with the naked eye. I could be totally wrong about him. I've been wrong about backs before. I'm not perfect. I was wrong about Le'Veon Bell in between college and the NFL, or his first year and second year in the NFL, I forget. So I was wrong about Monty Ball, who I loved. I'm glad I never drafted him, and he was a bust. So I'm going to be wrong about people just like the pros are, just like everybody is. You're right sometimes, you're wrong sometimes. But I try to do my homework and do the best I can. So I can see Coleman going there. I can see a lot of people liking him. I'm not a big fan of his. I don't know who else you're going to look at there. If you need a running back, Minnesota has for the current year, that's Tony. I mean, look, David Johnson, Gurley, Ajayi, and Ware were all gone. So Rawls had a lousy year next year and might be injury prone. Montgomery, you should have a good card next year, but only unlimited for 1/2, and you don't know what he's going to do long term. If he's going to be running back, Melvin Gordon's not going to have a good card next year. There in the first round, so I think it's worth a shot to take Tevin Coleman and say, I like a lot what I see with the naked eye. There was a lot to like. He's a great receiving back as well. So interesting that he went there because Dennis was considering him 23. And when it got to me at 20, I said, there's a good chance that Dennis is going to get Thomas Rawls, and he'll be excited about that. Number 22 is Atlanta. That's Mick, I believe, because Nathan is the Rams. Multiple leagues with these guys. And they're in Detroit in the other league, and one guy's the Rams in 2 leagues, and Atlanta in the other league. Anyway, that's Mick. And he took Jordan Hicks, great pick, number 22, late first round. Super fast inside linebacker. Had a tremendous 92 cover grade from PFF, only a 51 on the run. But you know what? That doesn't bother me as much. I want the coverage grade more, even though he's an inside linebacker. And you feel like he can develop the run grade. Eric Kendricks was a guy that I disagreed about him. He's probably going to be a 50 or a 54 this year. Another great coverage guy who needs to work on his run aspect, whereas Ryan Shazier is small and fast. Pretty good run grades and weak coverage grades. So, these guys are young and they're talented, and you hope they become even better in the parts of the game that seem weaker right now. Or they could go the way of Michael Kendricks, who never seemed to come around to be that really good full-time linebacker you liked once the split ratings came around. 1 year before the split ratings, I don't remember. It was a Tim Bollier guy. Who was kind of like that small, fast linebacker that you thought looked great, Number 23, Dennis was rushing to the podium to take Thomas Rawls. Of course, he's a Seahawk. But on top of that, Dennis needed a running back for the year, and he gets one of the best cards in the set. I like Thomas Rawls a lot. I know he had a lousy year next year with injuries. And anytime you have a young player that's gone through noticeable injuries the first couple of years of his career, is this guy going to become injury prone? Rawls runs like a bowling ball. His running style is, very physical. That could get him hurt more often. He only weighs about 215, even though he looks solid, because he's short, like 5'9". But it helps him a lot for the year. I like Thomas Rawls a lot long term if he's healthy. But it's a good pick, even if it's just for the year, and you have the chance for a lot more than that. So I like that. It was a very good first round, I thought. Then Jeff took Eric Kendricks. I wasn't a huge Eric Kendricks fan in the fall. Didn't like him very much. You'd have to. 82 coverage grade, 65 run grade. Again, similar to Jordan Hicks in that way. Might only get a 54, which is not bad at all. And he looked great in coverage. I mean, I did watch a couple of games, and he was just very cat-like reflexes out there. So, I would say I was a little wrong about him, at least, maybe a lot wrong about him. And last year was my first year doing video on the linebackers. And one of the things I try to do is, I'm not out to be right. Look, I'm right and you're wrong. I'm out to learn and learn how to do it better and get right so that my team is better. And I just enjoy following the young players better. So maybe next time a guy who reminds you of Eric Kendricks comes along, I'll think differently, and I'll benefit if I do that because he's a good player. Jed took him 24. So that wraps up your first round. Team real quick now. Very well drafted first round, I thought. Let's go through it real quick. Marcus Mariota, Winston, Marcus Peters, David Johnson, Todd Gurley, Jadeveon Clowney, Tyler Lockett. I'm not sure about that pick. Malcolm Butler, Vic Beasley, Byron Jones, Amari Cooper, Brandon Scherf, Leonard Williams, Daniil Hunter, Landon Collins. That 1 to 15. Like outside the Lockett pick, the rest of those guys, you can't get much more solid than that. I mean, I'd like to build a team of those guys. Mariota and Winston, quarterback. Marcus Peters and Malcolm Butler at corner. Byron Jones and Landon Collins at safety. Jadeveon Clowney, Vic Beasley, Leonard Williams as like defensive ends and linebackers. Daniel Hunter as a defensive end. Brandon Scherf is the only lineman there as a guard. I mean, David Johnson and Todd Gurley as running backs. Amari Cooper as a receiver. I mean, these guys, is there a question about any of these guys? Yeah, let's take the Tyler Lockett pick out of the equation for a minute. Those other 14, you could not get really more solid players, really. And then the rest of the round, the talent dropped off after that. The talent dropped off. And McKinney, I think, is a notch below those guys, although I like him a lot. Ajayi was number 14 on my big board, but I could see guys being a little concerned about that. Jordan Hicks is real good. But, the talent dropped off a little. So then you had Ronald Darby, Matt Paradise, Spencer Ware, Benardrick McKinney, Jay Ajayi, Tevin Coleman, Jordan Hicks, Thomas Rawls, and Eric Kendricks. So that's your first round for the SSFA draft. And now we're going to go team by team. I don't want to go too long with this show because I've had a very long day. And I want to get up in the morning and take care of some things before the football starts in the afternoon. And I want to go team by team in order of draft. But this is a little weird because Dennis didn't put the rounds here. I appreciate him doing this, and I didn't request the round, so my bad, maybe. Well, let's look at the Baltimore Ravens, who had 2 first-round picks and no second-round pick. Had a third-round pick that was high. And then after that, it's going to be hard to keep track of this. But you got Marcus Mariota, his man, at 1.1. Got Eric Kendricks, late first round, a good player. Got Trey Waynes, I think, in the third round. I'm not that big on him. Got Cedric Ogbuehi later, like probably the fourth round or so. He was an NFL first-round pick. Has not played well so far. Where did Jeff get him? So that's totally fine. You get a guy who's starting in the NFL and he was a first-round pick. That's the 5th round. He's like, hey, good, man, this guy will be good. He hasn't been good yet. Trey Jackson's got some ability out for the year. Eric Williams can return next year. Karan Reed, Kenjon Barner, David Bruton. Kenjon Barner was a duck. I wouldn't be surprised if Bruton was either. Last year, like a pick we really liked and a pick we didn't like, or just one pick we really liked from each team. I guess, even though I'm not a huge fan of it, I guess Cedric Ogbuehi in the 5th round. Maybe I won't do that for each team. I'll just go through and just talk about the players. It's a little different when without Dennis here. So, moving on to number 2 was the Jersey Giants with Joe Golden. Some of them I can see right here, but he took Jameis Winston. Number 2 overall, took Frank Clark, who I like a lot, but is going to kind of get screwed by Strat next year because they're going to start Cliff Averill and Michael Bennett Jr. Frank Clark graded out very, very well. Last year graded out pretty well as well. He was top 10 in the NFL in defensive end snaps. But he's going to be a backup because he played a lot because Michael Bennett was injured. And he is the backup. But he got an 83 run grade, a 77 pass grade, and had like 10 or 11 sacks. So he might get like a 4.10 or 4.11. They might stick with a 0 because Cliff Averill did not grade out well against the run. But he's an up-and-comer and a very good player and a guy you'd like on your team for the long term, in my opinion. So you got like that pick by Joe. And if I try and look at his whole draft here, I guess Joe would like to be the Rams, but Nathan has that franchise in SSFA. You got Winston in the 1st round, Frank Clark in the 2nd, Quan Alexander, I think in the early, was that also a 2nd round pick or a 3rd? That was an early 2nd round pick. He's much smaller than the other guys. He's like 6'1", 227. He's not even 230 pounds, which is kind of crazy for an NFL linebacker. He's really, really fast. Graded out pretty well in coverage. Did not grade out well in the run. Has a lot of ability. Don't know which way he's going to go. So I felt like that was a little early for him. I did like him a lot more. 49 run, so not bad. He's very young, only 22. So interesting player to watch how he comes along. He could be real good or he could be like, eh. So draft, a lot of guys could be that way. Tony Lippett, I'm not a fan of. Todd Davis got a good run rating. Cyrus Kouangio was a great pick. A 2nd round NFL pick. Didn't start most of the year. Played when Cordy Clan got injured. Graded out pretty well, like 70 runs, 79 pass, something like that. Rex didn't like him for some reason. I think because the GM, Doug Whaley, really did like him. But I think he's going to become a solid tackle. He was one of my sleepers, and I liked him. Got Chris Conley like around the 6th round. I like Conley a lot in the fall. Now I feel like maybe he's just another WR. But I was drafting him like 4th and 5th round. I was drafting him too highly. So, but he has a lot of ability. Tall, downfield. But they've got Macklin. They've got Kelsey. Conley's probably raw. I don't know how his hands are. Don't feel that much with Alex Smith. So, I mean, the offense could be hurting him as well. Or he might just not be that good. Kalen Clay's got a good returning card. Bryce Callahan, Jared Hayne, David Cobb. So interesting draft for Joe. I like the first 2 picks. Winston, you trade up for. Okay. I'm not the hugest Winston guy, but I can see it. Frank Clark, I love it, number 25. Alexander's interesting, kind of exciting guy. We'll see. I like Todd Davis a little bit. I like Kuhn Dijo a lot. So pretty good draft for Joe, I'd say. Moving on to the next team. Number 3 overall was the Bears. He mostly had his own picks, so I could probably look at it here. Took Marcus Peters, 1.3. I think he's a great player. Perennial corner 6, best corner in the draft, in my opinion, for the long term. Danny Shelton, 2nd round, very interesting pick, 2.5. Danny Shelton, Greg Williams, okay, because they're going to go 4-3 now. Shelton's going to be a 4-3 defensive tackle instead of a 3-4 nose tackle. I like to play the 3-4. Shelton's also interesting because he graded out well. He graded out well against the run for the 2nd straight year. Not stop anybody running the ball. Was tackle 5 to Danny Shelton with an 84 run grade and a whole bunch of snaps. 750 is a high number for a DT. They're going to give him an 85. They're going to give him a 5. Show gain on their stock cards. I mean, that could happen. If you don't care about 3-4-4-3, nothing wrong with the pick. If it was still a 3-4, I would say great pick this year. I'm really curious if he's going to get a nose tackle 5, or if he's going to saddle with a 4 unfairly, perhaps, because none of the guys around him could tackle. We'll find out. Marcus Peters, 1st round. Danny Shelton, 2nd round. He had a late 2nd round pick, took Eddie Goldman. Goldman, we all liked a lot in the fall, but he had a lot of injury problems this year. Had some as a rookie as well, and it was the same injury, I think, giving him problems this year. Very good player. Not a bad spot to get him, late 2nd round. They play a 3-4. You need him to be healthy. I maybe would like to see him drop maybe a little further, not too far, 10 picks, but I think some more reliable players were there, as much as I like Eddie Goldman. He said Mike Gillis is going to have a great card next year, but Dupree was intriguing to me. After that, it's only 4 players. And if Goldman comes through with 3-4 nose tackles, worth a fortune. So that's a fine pick as well. And sure enough, look, Lawrence took Mike Gillisley then in the 3rd round at 3.3. This guy, I think, is going to have a tremendous card. The 10-yard runs. Gillisley averaged like 7 yards a carry. Sorry, not 7 yards a carry. Averaged like 5.7 a carry. If you took out his longest run, he was still over 5 yards a carry. Runs, but he also had. Look, they literally ran the ball more than they passed it, 492 to 474. Part of that is Tyrod Taylor on the must runs. But Gillisley had 101 carries, so he's going to be unlimited for the whole game. 5.7 average. It's 7 runs to 20 or more. That's 7%. So you'd be like, Tom, that's automatic chunky. What's wrong with you? Okay. And I would say, yeah, that does look like it's going to be automatic chunky. You get into his plus 10s, and you tell me this guy carries of them, 16 of them were for 10 yards or more. So 1 in 6.5 carries of 10 yards or more is pretty good. 20 yards or more, I think he could be chunky, but still have a real good card. Tackle 4 plus 28 and like 9 plus 27, 2 plus 44 and 12 a long gain. But then I think this guy will have like 5s and 6s and 8s in there and not 0s and 2s and 1s. I'm thinking, and he can't catch it all yet. He's a pretty decent player if you watch him. He's not necessarily a one type of year guy. Years in Buffalo, and of course they've had good run blocking, I guess, by PFF grades. But anyway, a desire to run certainly. But he might have like a top 3 or 4 card next year. Like he might make Spencer Ware's card look like a. I couldn't think of a good analogy. Then he grabs Amir Abdullah in the middle of the 3rd round. We all liked Amir Abdullah in the fall. You grab the middle third round, you stash him on your IR next year. Hope he bounces back. We talked about how it's hard to get running backs. So I like these picks. I like what Lawrence is doing here. Just solid for a long time. Denny Shelton, a very good defensive tackle. You don't know what scheme yet. Eddie Goldman, late second round, could be big gold if he's healthy. Mike Gillis has got a great card next year. He looks pretty good overall. Abdullah gives you some future there. Nevin Lawson, he's graded out decently at corner with a 77. His looks a little slow to me, but fine to test. I'm not a big T.J. Yeldon fan. Now in the fourth round, and stuff starts thinning out. So Lawrence, with those picks in the first 3 rounds, it's one thing to acquire the picks. It's another thing to use them well, because if you use them poorly, hurry. Trade a bunch of guys for picks, and then you miss on all your picks. 2-14 or 0-16 like mine last year. That was not the reason why. Let's see what else he got here. T.J. Yeldon, he's got some ability at least. AJ Kansas starting guard. Justin Hopkins not bad. Schofield, Kakaha's like 3 ACLs. Damian Wilson I kind of like as an OLB sleeper, long-term project. So nice job for Lawrence with his draft. Moving on to number 4 is Cincinnati. Johnson fell to him. That's the thing. You trade from 2 to 4. Quarterbacks are going 1 and 2. Lawrence would take a running back. Available player, Marcus Peters. Johnson only had a 4.2 average. He might not get the running card for next year. I didn't break down his splits more thoroughly because I would have gladly drafted him at number 10. Chunky be damned. I don't think he'd be chunky anyway. Closely, I really didn't look at them. And Carson Palmer didn't have that great of a passing. So a lot of the reasons for next year's card, and we all love him long term. He just looks like a great NFL running back. So Butch was very excited to get David Johnson and picked up a 3rd round pick in the process. So you got David Johnson at number 4. You got Delvin Breaux in the 2nd round, kind of for the year. Rashad Breeland was also a 5 and did not miss the year with injury. Come on, Butch. But he didn't know what was going to happen. So we thought he was going to get a corner in the 1st round.
Be nice, Tom.
Be nice, is that what you said? Was that you, Butch?
Yeah, I snuck on under my son's name. His name's Corey.
Oh, very nice. Nice to talk to you, Butch. We have never spoken before.
No, good to talk to you, too.
I wanted that pick. I could have got it from Rashad Breeland.
Yeah.
Didn't grade out that well. So
I really didn't think Johnson would be there, so that kind of threw me for a loop.
Yeah, well, you had to be very excited about that. And you've got Devonta Freeman on this team, right?
I have them both, yeah.
Well, I feel like 2 good backs. Games where you get one guy fatigued from strength. If one guy's has a bad year, or if one guy gets undercarded, like David Johnson might be the best running back in the NFL. You're going to pass on him.
Yeah, I couldn't pass.
I
couldn't pass on him. So, and Peters was the guy I wanted. Even though Butler got the 6, I wanted Peters.
I hear, yeah, because he's younger. He's, I think, a little more reliable long term. 26. Peters is like a super athlete. Butler's a little more of a technique guy. A lot more of a technique guy.
Yeah.
So, and so let's see since we have you here, let's see what else we got from you. You got Delvin Breaux in the 2nd. In the 3rd round, you got Bud Dupree number 4. Torn.
Yeah.
I really wanted Bud Dupree. Drafting him at 16 when I traded that pick. Well, I had the last pick of the 2nd round and the first pick of the 3rd round. And I liked Ricardo Allen because he graded out well as a safety. Shaq Mason graded out well. He didn't grade out well yet, but he was injured a lot also and seems totally healthy right now. So, really wanted to try to get, and I think I was trying to finagle a trade to get another pickup in here, and it didn't work out. And then you grabbed Bud Dupree, and I immediately, I think I was offering like a 4 and a 5 for a 3. So I think Bud Dupree's got a chance to be really, really good. You like him a lot?
Yeah, he finished the year really strong. Like you said, he started off injured, but he did finish strong. I like his size. I like his speed. And, we'll see what happens. I think he might end up leading that linebacking crew in Pittsburgh.
I like, you know, following the linebacker a little more closely in the last year or so. Other guys. So when you get a guy 6'3", 245, and I think Bud is maybe over 260, I think. Hold on.
Yeah.
Bud is, I should have it here somewhere, 6'4", 269. And still moves well. You know, Melvin Ingram's got big size, not maybe as big as that. And if you have a guy that size that can still move well, and he already looks like a good pass rusher, ability and all that stuff. And like I said earlier, when these guys get a lot of sacks, especially if they start making Pro Bowls and All-Pro teams, they tend to get better grades from Strat. So, I mean, Bud Dupree goes out there and gets 11 sacks next year. And PFF is like a 53. He might get like a 56 or a 65 or something from Strat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's what I'm hoping.
And I'm sure you would take a 55-12 than asterisk, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. So moving down, let's see, get into the fourth round. Will Tye, you know, I read your write-up. Will Tye, he's not that bad in the NFL. I know he's not the fastest guy in the league. I love his card for the year as a blocking back. He's got one of the best. Said, I feel like, you agree?
Yeah, I do. And that's where I'm probably going to play him as a blocking back.
Yeah, and then last year, next year, his average isn't as good. But the reception is still there. He looks a little lumbering, but, you know, these like blocking back types or second tight end types, they use a little card. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Be fine. Then I read you got Deion Lewis, kind of a fun pick when you already had the other guys, as you said.
Yeah, just for kicks.
Sure, Arik Armstead has got some ability, some injury problems.
Yeah.
The team was just a disaster. It's not his fault. But, you know, he was a second-round NFL pick, almost a first-round pick. A lot of people liked him. You're getting him, you know, fifth round. It's a good place to take a chance on a guy like that, maybe come through. Do your draft. Maybe we'll just trade some of these picks away.
Yeah, he's a flyer just to see. You know, he's got that freakish athletic ability, like they say. We'll see if he can live and grow into it.
Yeah, so nice job. You got a lot of looks like to me. Dalvin Pro is injured next year. You needed him for now. So let's now pick. But look, you get David Johnson and Bud Dupree. You're in good shape. You know, especially since you spent the 2 for the year. And you know, I kind of like Tyler Kroft. I know we didn't do much this year. They were using this other guy a little more, but I kind of like his highlights. I've got him in AW.
We'll be in touch.
So long term, he might work out, but I think I may have a weakness for some of these receivers, some of these offensive skill players outside of quarterback.
Right.
Like I thought Gavin Escobar was going to be really good. I'm still waiting. So, you know, it's probably not going to happen. Yeah, Jeff, I just got a quick text from. There's Michael Reeves. There's Michael Reeves coming onto the show. Texting me. Okay. All right. So moving on to the next team. And thanks, Butch. And you can feel free to stay on if you wish. Who's the next team here? I'm going to be going until 1 in the morning. Todd Gurley was the first pick for the Chargers. San Diego Superchargers. Dennis not here to sing that, Dennis. Took Todd Gurley in round 1. Then he takes Melvin Gordon in round 2. Gurley's got a great card. Chunky off tackle, but not chunky linebacker and run. And good right and wrong on linebacker and run. And Paul's got a good team with Tyrod Taylor. Presumably the rest of the team is good. And Gurley might be really good for many years. Just had the one bad year. That's happened before. I'm not a huge Melvin Gordon fan. He looked a lot better this year, but I don't think his card's going to be good. Looking at it, including his 3.9 average. Devonta Parker had a pretty good second season. He's got a ton of ability. I wasn't big on him as a rookie. They say he maybe wasn't working as hard as he could have, but he showed a lot of flashes this year and had decent stats. So that's not a bad place to get him. I think Grady Jarrett's a real good-looking young defensive tackle. His grade was in the upper 70s most of the season against the run. Slumped near the end, so it's only 70s. He might get a 4 next year, but he's young. A significant upside. He was one of Football Outsiders' 25 sleepers. That's one of the only reasons I know about him. I was like, I can't really tell you how good he is. They don't even have that tape available to the public, really. And I don't know if I would want to see it if they did. Going into the 5th round, Nelson Aguilar, boy from Philly, but he was a first-round pick, and now in the 5th round. And look, once you get in the back half, I like James White. He got him in the 6th round. You know, things are going to be spottier once you get late in the draft. Stephon Anthony, I liked him a lot. The other guy I was wrong about so far. I loved him in the fall, right next to Jeremy Lankford, who I also loved and was wrong about him. The guy lost his job. But Anthony has not shown much yet, but getting him again in the 7th round, that's a great place to get a guy like that. If he puts it together, what would you invest? 7.4? Who cares? So, not surprising that Paul adds a lot of talent. I mean, Melvin Gordon has ability, no doubt about it. Paul likes to have a stable of running backs. Whenever he's been good, he's usually had that. So Gurley, Melvin Gordon, Devonta Parker, Grady Jarrett, James White, Stephon Anthony. You have one pick around, that's a pretty good haul. So not surprising that Paul does well as he always does. Then just in time, we got Michael Reeves with the Cleveland Browns. Said he was going to come on to the show. Don't see you on, Michael Reeves. The show done without your participation. I hate to tell it to you, or break it to you. I meant to say, let me. And talking at the same time can be hard. So Michael was drafting 6th overall, his first draft. Now, he had the team last year, but Ed drafted for him. Interesting story. I think I got an email or something out of the blue, maybe a YouTube message about a year ago from this guy I never heard of named Michael Reeves. It says, I'm watching on YouTube. Step 1, do not interrupt the broadcast to ask me questions that I can't answer. I'm going to mute the broadcast for about 2 minutes while I try and help Michael join. Hold on. Okay, want to mute. Michael's going to try to join us, so maybe I'll skip to the next team, and we'll double back to him in a minute if he can figure it out. Number 7 was Detroit, Don Morton. I believe Don is Detroit in this league, right? Sure. Don Morton, I've been playing Strat with him for quite a while now, maybe about 10 years. Don's a great guy. He's a good coach. I've been hammering his Tyler Lockett pick. I'm trying to be kinder and gentler. So, Don, good football player, runs very quickly across the screen. And I think I think he's real good. I don't think that he was worthy of being picked in the top 10 in this pool. And I certainly don't think he was worthy of being drafted over Amari Cooper. On the board, his special teams return acumen does not offset the difference from scrimmage, in my opinion. And I found that special teams acumen is very unreliable year to year. Although I do think Lockett could be one of those guys, like Devin Hester and Donta Hall. It is consistent. And if it is, this pick will work out a lot better than a lot of us are thinking right now. Because there's been a lot of guys who have come up and you've thought they're going to be the next special teams guy. Dexter McCluster comes to mind from a couple of years ago, and they almost never do it. But Tyler's real fast, and he has uncommon speed, and he uses it well. I feel like some of these guys are real fast, but it doesn't show up in production, but Tyler does. So he's a good player. I just think way too high for him. My top 19, I'm not sure where he would have gone. I imagine probably in the 3rd, probably much later in the draft. But let's see what else Don did here. And I don't know how good Don's team is. Thinks he joined. It's wrong, because I don't see his name here. All I see is me and Ed. We'll see. Maybe it'll take a minute to register here. I hope I unmuted my mic. Did I unmute my mic? Yes, I did. That would have been disastrous. So the rest of the draft, you had Tyler Lockett in the first round. You had, this was a great pick. You had Shaq Thompson in the second round. Shaq, one of the last guys in my top 19. He graded out very well. 82 coverage, 80 run grade, 533 snaps. They must have played a lot of nickel because they had Kuechly and Thomas Davis, though Kuechly missed a lot of time. But look, Shaq Thompson was a first-round pick, had a decent rookie season. NFL first-round pick, number 25 overall, college player. NFL first-round pick, decent rookie season, puts up good grades in the second season and reasonable playing time. What are the questions then about that player? I know he's smaller. No, I don't worry about his health for some reason. He does throw himself around like a wild man a little bit, but he was a guy that I really wanted. He fell further. He was a guy that I was considering earlier. So I think that's a great. You get him at number 8 of the second round. That's a great pick. So you got Tyler Lockett first round. Lockett is at least a good player. It's not like he's a stiff. Shaq Thompson the second round. Round interesting because helps you a little bit for the year. Next year, but was a high second round NFL pick. Had a surprisingly good rookie season. People were criticizing the Raiders for making that selection. And okay, so he's out next year. So you put him on your IR, but maybe after that he has 6, 7, 8 year good career. I like to take guys like that later, but you weren't going to get Edwards later. And the talent was thinning out by like the late second round. There kind of. There were still good players there, but there was a talent drop off after Landon Collins. I think there was a talent drop off after Maurice Alexander. There were some guys after that are all of a sudden it wasn't pick after pick after pick of consistent quality. And there was a lot of guys with a lot more warts and stuff like that on them. So, great Mario Edwards. Did he get Shaquille Barrett in the fourth round? He is a difficult guy to figure out because I like Shaquille Barrett a lot. He looked pretty good as a rookie. He's, I think he's a little shorter, but very solidly built, very aggressive player. But he met the fastest guy in the world. Graded out okay as a rookie. He got that 44.9. Only 416 snaps. Got a 76 coverage. Got an 81 run. Even got a 74 pass rush, which is better. Coaches see him rushing the passer, even although his sacks might not have been that great. But they got Shane Ray there. It's like Shane Ray was a first-round pick. I'm not the hugest Shane Ray guy in the world, but where is Shaq Barrett's playing time going to come from? Defensive coordinator is one of what's going to happen. So I really like Shaq Barrett's tape, just position and opportunity. I don't know how that's going to mesh, but you get him in the fourth round. He has a chance to be a good player. Lost or breaks his leg or something. I don't know. So I like Barrett. I just don't know if the opportunity is there for him. Maybe a little more for the year. I don't see much for the future there, which means I'll probably have a great year next year. And then the back nine, I'm kind of skip some of this to speed up the show a little bit. Let's focus on the first 5 rounds. So look, Tyler Lockett, Shaq Thompson, Mario Edwards, Shaquille Barrett. You had some good talent there. Next year, Barrett has a question about opportunity and playing time, but they're good players. That's a good player. So, Vic Beasley. I'm trying to be nice. Tyler Lockett's a good player, but you pass on Tyler Lockett. You pass on Vic Beasley to take Tyler Lockett. The NFL on sacks. Pass on Landon Collins. Automatic 6'6". Pass to Landon Collins to take Tyler Lockett. Oh. They took Kalen Clay in the 5th round. He's just a good return card to Tyler Lockett. Not going to running kicks out anyway. They're all 8 yards deep. Anyway. Don, forgive me. Don's my bro. He always has that 1968 IFL playoff win over me that he was very happy about. So moving down to Miami, let me see what's going on here with Mr. Reeves, who's not with us. He's gonna have to enlist Dennis's aid because I need to get on with the show. It'll be another 90-second break. Hold on. Oh, there we go. That's over and done with. Michael's apparently able to listen, but not able to talk. No problem. You might talk to Dennis and see if you can figure it out. Dennis is an IT guy by trade. Interest. Number 8 overall, Miami. I took Malcolm Butler. That's Bob. Arizona, I believe, in SOMIFA. Deja vu all over again. We just talked about this. Yes, A2A Apollos. So Bob gets Malcolm Butler, number 8 overall. Look, Malcolm Butler. You know, I liked him a lot in the fall. I drafted him at 9. I drafted him over Byron Jones and over Ronald Darby. I was kind of pilloried for drafting him over Ronald Darby. But he got a 91 in coverage this year. One hand practically. The number of guys who got a 90 in anything in PFF. He's automatic 6 next year. He's 26 on for the past NFL season. I'm giving you 2016 ages because we're dealing with 2016 cards, right? So maybe it's only going to be another 3 years of it. But, you know, that's pretty good. Football players don't play forever. So, you know, anyway, very, very good pick. Nothing wrong with that. Maybe you want to say I like Vic Beasley better. He's younger. He's got all the sacks. Look, we talked about these players. Look at these players, man. Look at the defensive players. And Amari Cooper and Brandon Scherf. But look at the defensive players from 6 to 15. Jadeveon Clowney, Malcolm Butler, Vic Beasley, Byron Jones, Leonard Williams, Daniil Hunter, Landon Collins. Come on. I mean, you know, give me those guys on one team. Man. You know, that's why, like I talked about, I don't mind pass rush. I almost view pass rush more as a dump-off deterrent than anything else. Although now that I had a team with some weak linebackers but some good pass rush, okay, it's pretty good. I feel like it's hard to get reliable pass rushers. That's one reason why. But when you look at Vic Beasley and Daniil Hunter and maybe Jadeveon Clowney, and you're like, well, these guys look like they're all going to be 12s. Certainly Beasley, Hunter, and Golden. These guys all look like they're going to be 12s with asterisks in the future, or 10s and 11s in certain years. Looking, and they're reliable. So, you know, Frank Clark, I like. So if you can get guys like that when they're young, and it's a spring league, and you see what they've done through 2 NFL seasons already. I'm just saying, if I got to build a team for a whole bunch of different things, I may skimp on the pass rush if I need to get corners or good covered linebackers and stuff like that. I'm all trying to look. This is going to sound very conceited, but I'm trying to build a team that can do everything. I want a team that's got a great secondary with a great pass rush and a good run defense. I'd like the sound of that team with a pretty good quarterback and a decent offense. I'll take my chances. Yeah, I think anybody would. So we'll see what happens. We were doing Miami. Malcolm Butler, number 8 in the first round. Malcolm Brown, second round, 2.7, very, very solid pick. You know, Malcolm was going late first round, even mid first round in some leagues. It's a 4-3 defense. A lot of us like the 3-4 better, but some guys like Jay Villan and either Ron Dickinson or Martin have shown they can do real well with a 4-3, even in these modern leagues. Bunch of 5s on the defensive line. A 4-3 is pretty good against the run. Mathematically, I my spreadsheets against certain opponents. So I mean, Malcolm Brown, I think, graded out pretty well. Tier of player for me. He was an 80-year run defense. You know, when he's 22 years old. These are the Patriots who are always good. But it's going to be a 5 or a 6 like every year. If he's a 6, you can play him as a nose tackle 5. So you get Butler in the first, you get Malcolm Brown in the second, you get David Andrews in the third. Maybe Bob is a Patriots fan, but in this case, he got some new players. Andrews is a pretty decent center. You get David Parry, nose tackle for the Colts. In the fourth, Mark Glowinski. In the fifth, at least he's playing. Recent years got some ability. In the 7th round, see, it's nice when these guys never trade. I can easily look at the grid and see who they're. I don't have to miss any picks. So pretty interesting job by Bob Brown, David Andrews, and all you had was one pick around. That's pretty good. You hit on your first 3 picks, I think, at least in the spring league. I've got this theory where I need to extract 3.5 starters, 3.5 long-term starters from every draft. And like a special teams guy every 2 years or something like that, or returner every 2 years, for me to a good team on the field, 10+ win team on the field every year. I don't know if I can make that happen, but that's my model for the SOMIFA family of leagues. That model is taxed quite heavily in one win, where it's a 30-team league, and the difference in drafting and in available players is significant. Easily trade for a linebacker 4 or a corner 4 or a guard 5-4 because you want one. No, you can play 0. Or you have nobody. Like you have your positions on your team where you have like no one who's like even like an NFL starter on your team, and no one on the horizon coming either. So, all right, number 9, Washington, Vic Beasley. It's an NFL pick. Looked great on film. I was a little concerned about him as a rookie because he didn't perform that well. Look like hyper athlete linebackers, like they talked up Barcavius Mingo that way. It's like these guys are boom or bust. Is he going to be? I remember talking with Dennis saying, "Is Vic Beasley going to be Justin Houston or is it going to be Barcavius Mingo?" We don't know. Well, it turns out he's more like Justin Houston. Okay. Paul drafted him top 10 in the fall. He loved him. Keith gets him number 9 in the spring. Led the NFL in sacks. Hello. Falcons defense. That team's got a chance to be real good for the next 3 or 4 years. They've got a lot of good young defenders. Vic Beasley, Deion Jones, Desmond Trufant when he gets back and is healthy. Jalen Collins had a good year. Brian Poole had a good year. I'm forgetting the other corner, Robert Alford. Then even guy, D lineman. Those you can pick up a free agency. I mean, they got a couple of guys, veterans like Adrian Claiborne floating around, but with that offense and with the young defensive players coming along, who just need some more seasoning, be a big time team. They're having a good season now. Maybe they'll make the Super Bowl tomorrow. For the next 2, 3, 4 years, we'll see. Vic Beasley the first, didn't have a second, traded to me in the deal where he got DeMarcus Lawrence. Second from the Jonathan Stewart trade. I would call it the ill-advised Jonathan Stewart trade, Jeff. He took Donovan Smith. Bay has not graded that well as a left tackle. You hope he does something. I'm not a big fan so far. Then you get Ali Villanueva in the third, who graded that very well. He might be a 7. I was trying to sneak him in there too. That didn't happen because I do need tackles on this team, even though I kept drafting guards. Ali got a 78 run block, a 81 pass block. He might get a 5'7" left tackle next year. He is much older than you like, 28 in 2016, but came out of the Army, so doesn't have a lot of, what am I going to say? He came out of the Army and have a lot of wear and tear on your body. I think this guy was an Army Ranger. I put some wear and tear on the body. I was in the Army. I was not a Ranger, certainly, but so he might be just looks like a great pick. There's some of the tackles I had interest in. I kind of wanted to get Andres Pete far, but wasn't completely awful this year. Is very, very young. Was a high pick. Surprised if he struggles for another year or two. It's like, oh, wow, Andres Pete's a 5'5", and I was a 5'7", and what happened? I thought he sucked. Well, he did suck, but not anymore. But I like that pick of getting Ali Villanueva, the guy you would think Tom Cook's going to like, but he's got the grades. It's Carlos Williams in the 4th because he's got a good team for the year. This is Keith Mowbray. Big games. You got Rodney Gunter in the mid-4th because he knows tackle 5. See, that's why you got to look at those depth charts. And NFL Ed told us, Roto World depth charts. All I said on the show, They got Rodney Gunter third on the depth chart. Early second round, late first round, and he hardly played. He's threw away a pick. Well, you got to win your guy. So I hope you win. You know, if you had a great team for the year, okay. But no, I like to think long term, and now I'm getting up on my soapbox. You know, I was trying to be kinder and gentler. I think I'm doing okay. Not as good as I'd like. So, Donald Trump and I from the same borough, so maybe, you know, something in the water. Round 5, Washington traded that pick away. Backhand, he mostly got stuff for the year or didn't have his picks. Mike Nugent's a kicker, in case you didn't know. Marcus Murphy returned. Denzel Goods graded out terribly. I'm glad Ryan Grigson is gone. Should have been gone a long time ago. So not a bad job there at all. You get Vic Beasley, all world. You get, not a big fan. You get Alex Villanueva, looks real good. You get Carlos Williams done for the year, Rodney Gunter done for the year. So pretty nice job there by Keith. Number 10, Jets, Jets. Everyone's favorite. Certainly my favorite. I should go to my Google Effects now. There we go. So let me review my draft. Interesting. I blew up my team, blah, 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 blah. 3 1s. I started out with 3 1s. I was at 14, 20, and 21. And I just loved all these guys, especially these edge guys. Williams, Jadavian Clowney, Daniil Hunter. I thought they might go in that range, 6 to 16 or something. And then at 21, maybe I'd be taking Frank Clark. As much as I like Frank Clark, you know, and I wanted to trade up. And well, I didn't necessarily want to trade up, but when I saw that Tony was offering number 10, I said, boy, number 10, I'm going to get a surefire guy. And look, I got 6 or 7 guys on the team. Picks in the top 49. I got 5 picks in the top 30 next year, including 4 first-round picks. I feel like I can afford to move up to make sure I get a real quality player instead of just worrying about quantity, and still be on pattern to get my 25 to 27 players that I feel like I need in my roster to be good every year. So number 10, I took Byron Jones. I already spoke about this with Joe Golden. I won't tell you again why I prefer him to Landon Collins. I think they're both great. I'd be happy to have either one of them. I'd be happy to have both of them. I could have had both of them. Bradford liked him a lot last year. Took Daniil Hunter, number 14. I spoke about him also. Took Jay Jaya. I'm noticing a trend here. Teams, I've already spoken about my team quite a bit. Of course, I had 3 first-round picks, and we went through the first round, so that's part of it. And part of it, of course, is that I love talking about the Jets and draft football and young players. So Byron Jones, 10. Daniil Hunter, 14. Jay Ajayi, 20. I think Ajayi will have a pretty good card next year. I think Dan Morin's right that he might be chunky, but I think based upon the 10-plus yard stuff and Miami running the ball a fair amount by modern standards, I think Ajayi might get a pretty good card. I think he might get a real good card. Pretty good. Maybe that 9 to 13 type of range in the set to hand the ball to. He fumbled a little more than I'd like. He doesn't catch that well in terms of the yardage anyway. 260 carry guy. I was thinking of trying to add and Ty Montgomery, and even Duke Johnson might have a decent card next year. And some of those other guys later, if they were there at the right pick. Gilsey was a guy that I would have liked to get, although Bud Dupree would have taken over him. But anyway, Byron Jones, Daniil Hunter, Jay Ajayi, those are my 3 first-round picks, 10, 14, 20. I already have some good players on the team. I started with like Derek Carr, Brandon Cooks, Andy Levitre is going to be 6'7" next year. Probably trade him. Patrick Peterson, Nick Perry came out of nowhere to have a good year. Kyle Fuller, young and upcoming but injured. Some talent on the team. Then the 7 first-round picks in these 2 drafts. and a couple of second-round picks and a couple of third-round picks, that type of thing. So I feel good about this roster and where they'll be after next year. I think it'll be where I want them to be, like where my SOMIFA team is now. This team might even be better than that team, I think. I think they will be. I shouldn't say might even. It's not like the SOMIFA team is awesome, but they're very solid, I think. Second round, I was at number 30. I took Marcus Golden. I was kind of surprised he lasted there. Turned off a little by some of the PFF grades. 82 run is pretty good, but 58 coverage. So you're thinking, oh, is he going to be like a 0.6 or something? I don't want that. Arizona wasn't great, so I think you might look at a 45 or a 0.5. But it seems like, and I don't know yet because this is all new to all of us, seems like Strat gives the pass rushing outside linebackers better coverage grades than you would think. Golden's second year has sacks, and he's a big guy. He's not in the 240s. But I saw last year. And I think he had 12 and a half sacks. So for the linebackers, someone told me a long time ago, until you get to a 12 rating, points for every sack. So your first 6 sacks get you a 12. I don't know if that's true or not. Then your extra 6.5 sacks might get you in the asterisk. So it might be like a 12 asterisk 8 or something. But good. And he's young. So number 30. Then later in the round, this was interesting to me. Turner and Andy Levitra, but I want to take the best players available. That's what I like to do. It served me well. Then I trade the older guys, and I have a younger team. He graded that real well, real solidly, like 83, 84. 83, 83 snaps. Missed 2 games in the middle of the year with injury, came back, no problem. He's a massive guy. He's like 6'4", 330 or some crazy stuff like that. And he's high up there. Based upon their sacks, he could be a 5'7" easily next year. He could be a 5'7", he could be a 5'5", he could be a 6'5", he could be a 6'7", 25 years old. I think that's a good player, very reliable player. I like Bud Dupree a lot, but I felt like the Bud Dupree is a little more of a chancy player, but at a much more valuable position. But I decided to take Spain. And then later in the round, I traded up because Shaq Mason was on the board, another guard. That real well at a position where I don't need, but I don't care right now. I'm collecting assets and players. And he's that I liked in this draft. You had Landon Collins first 2. Let's say Landon Collins number 1, Baron Jones 2, which everyone has probably. Maurice Alexander graded that well. He's more of a strong safety. Ricardo Allen got an 82 coverage grade, 73 run. And I like his tape. Ricardo, he's interesting. He's a small guy, like 5'9", 186. He rated pretty well last year. So it's like, okay, he doesn't fit the mold, but what the hell? Adrian Amos, pretty good. But he plays almost like a safety in his style, so I put him over here. You can ignore that. But Maurice Alexander already went. I thought he would go a little later. But Oakland gobbled him up in the mid-second. And then Adrian Amos went. Around. So Ricardo Allen was the last of the Mohegans. And I love my secondary guys. And I forgot at the time that I already had Brent Grimes, who might get a 6 next year. I picked him up in a trade. So I already got Byron Jones, Patrick Peterson, and Brent Grimes. They might all be 6s. So Ricardo Allen's going to be a 5 probably. That sounds pretty good to me, And then you tell me I've got, Marcus Golden and Nick Perry and who's a 5, and the Hunter can at least rush the passer. Although probably a 0. I'm like, all I need is like a nose tackle, and I'll have a pretty good defense next year. For 1 year anyway. Almost all these guys are very young. So I did something I don't usually do. I traded my which should be late. He's got a good team. Should be 17 to 24. I was offering that for pickup here, and Jay took me up on it. And what I like. He's not a prototypical. Then Shaq Mason was kind of like Quentin Spain's twin, but on the other side. But I mean, Shaq graded out 83, 83, had over 1,000 snaps, 6'4", 310. Oh, I drafted Trey Turner in the first round next year. Now about to draft more guards. I could have taken by Dupree. I said, I'm going to take this as the safest pick. Trey Turner played some tackle next year. I'll definitely trade Levitra next year. He might be a 6'7". He will be at least a 5'7", I believe. And we'll take it from there. Maybe I'll flip one of these guys for a center or a tackle or in the draft or for someone in defense or as part of a package or whatever. Decided to go, which I realize is kind of weird. And I like Bud Dupree, and I missed him. And I liked my Gillisley is going to have a great card, but I feel like you can get a card for the year if you need it. That would be a supplement. And I'm not going just next year. I'm going long term. And then I really wanted to get Demarius Randall, who I loved in the fall. Traded up here into the late third round. Couldn't do it. Randall at 323. And then we had a break after that round, and I was trying to trade with him to give him 4-1 and other stuff, but he said he was happy with Randall. And he kept him. Randall had a terrible year this year, was playing terribly. Then got injured, missed half the season, came back, playing not that great up and down. Later in the draft, so I feel like, hey, guy could have a bad year, could be an injury-played year, maybe he'll still be real good. We'll see. Took the run to Alexander, not for youth, but because of the card next year, he had like 12 sacks or something, so he'll get a good pass rush grade and maybe 4 or something, and maybe I'll trade him. So they've got him, Nick Perry, and Marcus Golden, and only 2 of them can play at one time. Lael Collins, mid-4th round, supposed to be a good future tackle. Injured next year, we'll see what happens. Philip Dorsett looks like a bust in a scrub, but it's the middle of the 4th round. He's really, really fast. I liked him in the fall. Some receivers can take a while to develop. We'll see. Quentin Rollins in the 5th round. Brother. Randall was the 1st-round pick. Rollins was the 2nd-round pick for the Packers. They both have ability. Rollins is a scrappy guy. He did not play well either this year. He was injured. He's, I think, in the concussion protocol right now. And then since it's my team, I'll do the extras. Henry Anderson I like as a good run stopper. He's played well when healthy. Had trouble bouncing back from the injury. He's out for the year next year. I might take a young guy out for the year next year because I liked him last year. And he might be a middle linebacker in the future, and I needed the middle linebackers. Max Williams was one of my favorites from the fall. He missed the whole year with injury. He was a 2nd-round NFL pick. He's a huge guy, like 6'4", 267 as a tight end, and he moves really, really well. So I'm kind of hoping he can do something, but he wasn't doing much even before I got hurt. So, you know, I'm fine with that. And then I took a Dakota Dozier the 10th. I think gives some promise as a backup lineman. So that was my haul. I had 15 picks, and I stacked them all up. One of my files, and I'll look at it real quick. And I had 15 picks, and they were mostly not shutting up on my own team, which is not good. Good manners. It's not good form. But I do all this work for you guys, so I'm entitled to go on about. Keeps going. There it is. So I stack them up in order. I got Byron Jones, Daniil Hunter, Jay Ajazi, Marcus Golden, Quentin Spain, Ricardo Allen, Shaq Mason, Lorenzo Alexander, Lael Collins, Philip Dorsett, Quentin Rollins, Henry Anderson, Ben Heaney, Max Williams, and Dakota Dozier. That's a lot of football players with a lot of ability to get in one draft, 15 guys. So hopefully a lot of them will stick. I think it will happen. Next year I'll add at least 5 more. 1st-round picks and my own 2nd-round pick. And my team is going to be brutal again. I might actually go 0-16 in back-to-back seasons, although I think this year I might win a game or 2. But next year's draft looks good. Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott, Carson Wentz, Joey Bosa, Jalen Ramsey. So if I have a bad year this year, it'll be the last one for a while, I think. And I'll add another blue chip hype in the draft. Team 11, and I got to speed this up now. So I got stuff to do. Kansas City, Dan Morin, took Amari Cooper in the 1st round. Daniil Hunter, but like I said earlier, if he did, I could have my choice of whoever was left over, of Amari Cooper, Leonard Williams, or Landon Collins. That would have been okay with me. Those guys were all great players. Amari Cooper in the 1st, very excellent pick. Cameron Brayton in the 2nd, I liked him in the fall. I thought he went a little high here, but he is a solid tight end. Winston loves him, so I thought he went a little high. The guys, but I don't have a big problem with it. Just more of a surprise. But there's really not a lot of tight ends out here. This draft or next draft, maybe Hunter or Henry, but you may have to take him with your late 1st-round pick, sophomore season. So if you don't take right there, and then when is Dan drafting? I went late 2. But yeah, Kevin Johnson late 2. A lot of injuries. Flag on him, but he played real well when he was in there. 4. And Dan always trades so many picks. God doesn't have. He's going future this year. And the next year he says he's going to go for it. Chartrandrick West in the 5th round. Then he makes some picks. And you're like, okay. Still hoping to do okay this year, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. 6th round kicker, Brandon McManus. Okay. So interesting. I mean, Amari Cooper, real good. Cameron Brate, solid player. Kevin Johnson, you got to hope he stays healthy. And my eyesight is failing me. Oh, and that was it really until the 5th round. So then he took West. He was more of a 1-year card, kind of an okay card. And moving on then to the Steelers. That's the new coach, Dan T. I have no idea what the team looks like. Took Brandon Scherf, number 12, very, very solid player. Potential All-Pro. You get him for forever, 10, 12 years, whatever. So that's a real fine pick. Shane Ray in the 2nd. A lot of guys like Shane Ray a lot. I like him more now than I did in the fall. When I didn't like him much. One thing about that is with Wade Phillips in Denver. I remember Tim Boyle saying, hey, he's got Wade Phillips there. He's a 3-4 outside linebacker. What more do you want? He's not the only good defensive coach in the NFL. I think you liked Shane Ray better when Wade Phillips was there. It'll be interesting to see what Denver does, but Ray's got ability. He was a late 1st-round pick. I'm not a huge fan of his, but I can see people liking him and making the pick there. This guy gets pilloried for his poor pass blocking, but he had a good run grade. The Giants are not sacked a ton because Eli gets rid of the ball, and he could end up with a better 5.5. Like, how does Eric Flowers get a 5.5? And he's young. Not a huge fan, but mid-3rd round, I think that's a fine pick. We were all playing Strat, not the NFL. Jesse James, I'm not a big fan, but he had some catches. Tight end is weak, and this guy is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe he's a Steelers fan. Josh Shaw in the 5th, I think a little early, but he's a great athlete, has some ability, played nickel for the Bengals, some ability to start. He was a safety, but he looks like a pretty good player. Job drafting, especially his 1st time through. TJ Clemens in the 6th, not a great player, but you're getting later in the draft now, and I'm not going to ding a new guy in that, especially when he's new. Buffalo gets Leonard Williams, number 13, rock solid. He might be a 6 this year, graded out real well, showed more pass rush. He's very young. I think was only 22 this past year. Defensive end or what? I think he's going to be defensive end. He's been mostly defensive end, but the Jets are crowded on the defensive line. Many people expect Sheldon Richardson to depart in this coming off season. So Leonard Williams is about as safe a player as you could get in this draft. Rock solid 13. Rob Havenstein gives you the 4.7 rookie rating. Did not grade out well next year, I don't think. Unlike last year, they gave up a ton of sacks this year, the Rams. Havenstein, even though he got a 78 pass block, is probably going to be like a 4 or something. I pick a 4-4 offensive tackle next year. He's not bad. He was a good player, and he's a big guy. And the year, so I could see someone liking him. And there was not a lot to choose from in offensive tackles. Ali Villanueva I liked. Then you're hoping on Andres Pete, Eric Flowers, Aliku and DJ long term. But, this is probably the most solid guy there. I would take a flyer on those other guys in the right spot, like someone did with Andres Pete. He wasn't overdrafted. But I don't think. I can't find him now. 3rd round, Buffalo. John Miller, guard for the Bills, who graded out pretty decently against the run. I think that's the fine pick. There's Andres Pete, late 3rd round. That's about where you should go. 3.17 to Rennie. It was a good pick. Buffalo 4th round, Max Garcia. Didn't grade out well, but he played. That's about. We already did my team. The commish. NFL Ed took Landon Collins, number 15. All-Pro, All-World. How about that? Got Stephon Diggs in the 2nd at 2.15. Stephon had 84 catches, under 1,000 yards, only a 10.8 average. But you're getting him a little later. I mean, he's not bad. I know I killed Diggs and Steed in the fall. He was going in the 1st round, and I don't think he's a 1st-round receiver. You tell me late 2nd round, okay. And guys were gaga for Steed, and I was like, he's a decent little receiver, and he's going to help me out, okay. hey, but guys like, oh, I love Willie Snead. I'm like, yeah, why? You know, what is he going to do? Average. And he's third on his team in receiving yards. Michael Thomas is the young player, the young receiver to get there. And Brandon Cooks is hardly ancient. So, but he gets in the second round, and he has a pretty good call for the year, and he looks like a good player. And I'm not even Steve. I don't hate him. I just valuing him. Third round, Jamison Crowder. I like him. Catches a pretty good average. Has a good punt returning card next year, I think, as well. Yeah, I think it's 2 good years with a touchdown for him, at least on returns. Nothing in the fourth red. Wilson, safety grade pretty well, so another pretty good draft for Ed. Diggs will be the key to whether this draft becomes real good. You know, more like, 1,100. But Sam Bradford was getting a rapport going with Adam Thielen. What a great second half of the season. And they say that Bradford's going to repeat as the starter. And I had some interest in him. But he got drafted, which is a fine place to get him. Houston Texans, Ronald Darby, that's Brad. I believe is how you say that fully. Former SSFA champion. Drafted Darby 16. He gets a 5 for the year. Gets a young guy. Had a great rookie year. Struggled this year. Maybe that there might be an undisclosed injury. Maybe the guy was playing hurt the whole year. Year of goodness to a second year of not that good. 66 PFF rating. Although PFF says that their corner ratings do tend to fluctuate year to year, except for the real elite guys. Bad sign for taking Darby 16 because it would mean that he was not one of the real elite guys. Didn't have a 2. I had that from a trade last year. Duke Johnson in the third is interesting. Duke had a 4.9 average, but that team is so dreadful offensively and losing so badly all the time. You wonder if Strat's going to say, well, he just got his yards in garbage time and not give him a good rushing guard. He had a lot of catches also. I think he looks pretty decent on tape. I kind of like Duke Johnson. I was thinking of trying to add him somewhere, but you only have so many picks. Devin Funchess, I liked a lot in the fall, but it didn't happen. So another player I was kind of wrong about. But he's young. He's big. Carolina likes to throw the ball down the field. Brandon Coleman, I'm not a fan of his. 6'6" on New Orleans, but doesn't do much besides that. No second-round pick, and you end up with Darby, Duke Johnson, Devin Funchess, so there's certainly some talent there. Green Bay Randy does. Randy, I think, puts a lot of time in his team. It's a lot with his box scores and stuff and season stuff, which is all good, and we like to see that. All the LOL stuff, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing good. Parody 17, we talked about that. Parody's graded out wonderfully, but he was scheduled for hip surgery as of like a week ago. And I'd have to reread the article. I don't know if he's going to have hip surgery on one hip and possibly on a second hip. I don't know if Randy knew that or not because it was not like widespread. Just like one little article, a paragraph like a week ago. But maybe he'll be back in time for the season with no problem. So we'll have to watch what happens with him next year. 2.17. Next year, his card is not going to be that good. 72 catches and what? What do you do? Ed's got it here. Makes it so easy for all of us. 72 catches with a 12.4 average. So under 1,000 yards. Third on his team in receiving yards. That doesn't bode well for a good card. So I see you need him now. I'm not a big Snead fan. This was not a good receiver draft after Amari Cooper, really. Devonta Parker's got some ability. I would have gone for him, I think, over Snead if I was eager. Also, I'm not in love with that pick. He's not a bad player. You watch him play, he's not bad. I feel like he doesn't get wide open. I see Drew Brees like pinpoint passing it there, and he catches it. He's got really good hands. A little more open. But we know how I feel about Snead. I love this pick. 317, 100 speed. Had a terrible rookie year, but he's very, very young. They tried to move him to guard. It didn't work. Had some injuries this year. They had to move him back over to tackle for a time. And he played okay. A 69 run grade, a 69 pass grade, and over 1,000 snaps at age 23. Those aren't great numbers. That's going to get you a 4.4 or whatever, depending how many times they were sacked. And I think his pass block will be better because that only breeze very much. But look, it's a late third round. Forever. You know, this guy, after a disastrous rookie season, you know, maybe he's going to take a couple years to develop. Maybe he was really raw. End up with like your long-term left tackle from this pick. Another guy I was hoping to get somewhere. You can't get them all. So I like that pick. You know, I'm curious how Pete's going to do in the next few years. Then you go to the fourth round to get Matt Jones in a decent year, but he's a backup running back. But it's the fourth round, and he needed another guy for this season, I think. And that's the wrong team. That's the Saints I'm looking at. I'm thinking of Andres Pete in the NFL. Sorry about that, Randy. Randy's fourth round pick was Jalen Collins from Atlanta, who had a great corner grade, even though he's a corner. So I can do what I want. He got 84 coverage grade, almost 500 snaps, but he's not one of the top two corners of the team. Trufant will get the start. So he's probably not going to get. He might even get a 0. But he played well. He was a second-round pick. You know, he showed NFL ability. So you're not going to get a good strike card next year from him, but he could be a guy that helps you down the road. So I think that's a solid pick. NFL pick. So it's the pass rush chops. Didn't do a lot for Cleveland this year. They're switching to a 4-3, and I like some of their guys. Even one of the other guys, rookies from last year. I don't remember the guy's name. Orchard could be that mix. I think he got hurt this year. On the NFL draft pedigree, Lucky Whitehead's a good returner. Ryan Jensen gives him help for the year. Darren Williams is an offensive tackle prospect, may start next year. Jordan Richards, NFL second-round pick. The Patriots let their guys marinate at a time. So, you know, a lot of good thinking behind a lot of these picks for Randy. You might not have known about Paradis's hip surgery. And adding talent to the team. So good job there. Scott with the Ryan Tannehill team. We talked about them briefly before. Has a lot of young talent on that team. Drafted Khalil Mack last year. Has been accumulating young talent for years because he inherited a team that had Peyton Manning and absolutely nothing. And he's done a real nice job with it. Team, which means he made the playoffs last year and did something. So Mitch Morris in the second. I'm not a huge Mitch Morris fan, but there was not a lot from at the center position this year. There'll be some more in the draft next year. Well, you've had some options here. Well, Paradis Morris, Greg Mance, David Andrews. I did have Morris over Mance, and maybe that was a mistake. Well, the grades are similar. One for Morris, 75-87 for Mance. Mance was an injury replacement. They both played the full season, so that's fine. I mean, Morris might only get a 4.5 with the 76th grade, but he might get a 5.5. It seems like the run grades for the linemen were higher, so I think if you're in the mid-70s, you might not get the 5, whereas a year or two ago, that seemed to get you a 5. Ty Montgomery might have an interesting card. I don't know how they're going to card this guy. I mean, he's got so many like runs of 10-plus yards, but so few carries. And chunky runs, I think he might be chunky. He might be a horrible guess right, like really good guess wrong. So you don't use him too often to want to get him. So he might be good next year. You got Spencer Ware and Ty Montgomery. That's nice. Matt Jones in the fourth. I'm not a big fan. I'm just starter anymore. Like Kelly is involved. Trent Brown, he's got a decent rating for the year. Not a big fan, but it's a 5th round. Al Jones Corte played, but not well. Quandre Diggs I kind of like as a slot guy. Show some more. Interesting draft for the Saints. I like Spencer Ware and Ty Montgomery. And Mitch Morris is starting. And some other guys doing some things, so not bad. Arizona. Who's Arizona? That's Kurt. But that isn't. And Kurt's got at the 19th pick in the draft. Yeah, that year last year, I think. His team was going to be terrible, and instead they were real good. A coach of the year type of season. Gets Bernard McKinney at 19. We spoke about him. Very, very solid. Drafts Denzel Perriman in the second round, 2.19. Not a bad spot for him. As you guys may remember, I really, really liked Perriman a lot. Dan Moore and I spent time talking about this. I had McKinney and Perriman as my top 2 inside linebackers. He had Hicks and Kendricks by far, was the quote that he said, over the other guys. I was going to say over my guys, but McKinney's the other one on my team. But yeah, Perriman was injured a lot. He plays very physical and almost kind of reckless at times. He had injury problems as a rookie. So you had a guy injury problems year 1, injury problems year 2. Kind of an aggressive, sometimes reckless play style. Didn't grade out the best this year. Wasn't terrible, but it's going to get you 5s. 71 run. Hoping long term he's going to be something. I mean, I think some of these other guys here, Adrian Amos, certainly, Bud Dupree certainly are guys I'd rather have. Maybe need an inside linebacker. But Perriman, I liked him a lot last year, so we'll see what he can do. 3rd round, nothing. Trades with Dennis. Oh, the Brock Osweiler trade. Josh Morrow in the 4th round. For the year, I don't know. Had no 5th round pick. And Perriman are going to make a break this draft. I like McKinney a lot, very solid player. About Coleman, number 21. That's Tony. I can see people liking him, so I don't have too much of a problem with. That was me and him trading. That's right. We traded from 21 to 10. He had no 2. It looks like here. Adrian Amos. So there you go. So Tevin Coleman in the 1st. Adrian Amos, very solid safety. In the 2nd round, Laken Tomlinson, I'm not a fan. Not terribly. Both years. I know he was the 1st round pick. Poorly. 41 run, 75 pass. 75 pass isn't bad, but your lack of sacks is going to come from what the quarterbacks. That 41 run grade is supposed to be a big guard. Yeah, I think John Miller might have been a better pick if needed the guard pick. I could see people liking that, but and it is the middle of the 3rd round. I just happen to be down on Laken Tomlinson. 4th round, looks like he didn't have it. They gave me that in the trade. I gave him a 1 and a 2. He gave me a 1 and a 4. And that's not bad. Had some decent grades, showed some things for the Packers. David Irving in the 5th, I think maybe a little high, but he showed a lot of pass rush. I'm at the point of the draft, if you like a guy, you should take him. I had good comments about him in the fall, but didn't pull the trigger on getting him. He was very young also and was raw. They're playing with defensive tackle. I could see him becoming a defensive end. He's like 6'7". So he has a lot of upside. You never know if these guys will come through, but he's a possibility. And then you get into the back end, which I'm not going to get into. 22 is Atlanta. That's Red Wing Mick. I want to have Mick pronounce his last name. I would say Mick Baughan, but it's like Mick Bauchen. It's like Bauchn. Bauchen? I'll let you email him. But here's Jordan Hicks, 22 overall, excellent pick. Great coverage linebacker. Small, super fast. Eagles defense, which is pretty good. They need some help at corner, but that front 7 is strong. Jenkins and safety. A lot. You don't know what he's going to get for the run grade, but I'd rather have the pass grade. And look, if he starts getting 4s against the run, if he's a 64, maybe he can be better than that. Atlanta had no 2. They made some trades with me last year. When I was breaking up my team, they made a run, and look, you can see they're drafting 22, so they had a good year and made the semifinals. But 3rd round, Adam Thielen. I like Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen came from nowhere, had a good second half. He's a slash in the pan. 6'2", 200. He's faster. He's fairly quick. Control, an excellent hand, so make a lot of tough catches in traffic. A lot of yards after the catch, more than you'd think. Sam Bradford has been announced as a starter again. They obviously had some kind of rapport on the field. So I like Adam Thielen, and he's going to have a good quarter. He had a 14-yard average with a popcorn quarterback, so I like that pick. And you move on to the 4th round. Didn't have anything. And file. Guard for Tampa Bay. I liked him in the fall. Didn't have the best grades, but at least he played. And we'll stop there with Atlanta. As we're almost done. There's a couple teams that had no first-round pick. Maybe I'll try to squeeze them in. Thomas Rawls first round. I already spoke about how happy Dennis was to get Thomas Rawls, or I've already gone on about Thomas Rawls. Excellent card for the year. You know, looks real good in the NFL. Good year because he was injured a lot and struggled when he came back. Is he going to be the long-term guy? Are they going to actually get people who can block? Those are your questions about him. But Dennis is going for the year. Dennis is a championship hunting coach. He's a championship winning coach. This guy at 1.23, despite a bad card next year. And again, Rawls could be real good in the future. We don't know. Dennis was moving up and down the draft board as he is wont to do. Drafted Laurent Devontae Tardif. Did out the best. I liked him better in the fall. 52 run grade, but that pass grade is going to, again, be based upon the sacks for a team. That 62 might get you a 0.04 or a 0.5 even. That's not terribly exciting. Big guy. I think he's a Canadian, went to a small college, but he did 2 years now and hasn't really graded out that well. So not a huge fan. He's a 4.4 for the year, but maybe you could have picked somebody else up in trade. I don't know. Quincy Enunwa, late third round, a Jet, had pretty good stats. I think almost 60 catches. I think close to a 14-yard average. He should have a pretty good card with the yardage. Interesting. Dennis and I talked about him a lot after the pick because he was curious what I thought about him as a Jet fan. 38. Maybe I have to look at his height and weight. He's a real good athlete. He looks fast. He's powerful. He gets yak. But he started dropping a ton of passes as the season went on. It happened. He's got a lot of potential. He's got to work on his hands. Third round, Dennis stayed home. What happened there, Dennis? Fourth round, rather, Dennis stayed home. Oh, do Atlanta. What am I doing here? I think I messed up. So Seattle got Thomas Rawls in the first round. Laurent Devontae Tardif, that's right. I did Atlanta already. Okay. Fourth round, Dennis got Zach Miller. He's got a good card for the year. And we'll have a decent card next year, Owen Daniels-ish. He had over 40 catches with like a low average, and then he got hurt. A pretty good year. He's got a pretty decent card. Fumbles are a problem with him. I won a big when he fumbled near the end of a game against me. Maybe it was regular season. I don't remember. Excuse me a second. Something went down the wrong way and I was coughing. But as we move on, where was I? I was on Seattle. Chris Thompson. I think it might have been a SOMIFA game. It might have been the SOMIFA game. But Dennis had all kinds of bad luck on SOMIFA. Back to the end, Chris Thompson might have fumbled inside my 10. I don't recall. Got Trey Jackson. No, we traded that pick. It's hard to keep track of Dennis. He trades up and down. Well, he did do the other things sorting for me, but this is Dennis. I'm using that. So, again, he's going for the year. We got Thomas Rawls. He drafted a new one for some future. Devontae Tardif helps him for this year, and he's starting in the NFL. Grades. Zach Miller helps him. This year's got a pretty good card. And next year he can help out as well. And Chris Thompson, the same thing. So some interesting picks by Dennis. A couple of them, but there's more than 1 year of usage from all these guys. I think, except maybe Zach Miller, he might retire. No, even next year he's not bad. So moving on to other teams that had no first round pick. Let's see, was there anybody? Minnesota traded down. Oakland and the Rams did not have first round picks. So when did Oakland come on Jacksonville? And I think Jay said he hardly drafted, which is weird because Jay said he loves to draft. So I don't know. He said this is his favorite day of the year. So Oakland is that's Ron Dickinson, right? Yeah, that's Ron Dickinson. His first pick was the middle of the second round. Well, that's right. He traded me for Takeeb Leib this year. That's a pretty good trade for him. Was a 6 when I traded him. He's a 6 right now. He's going to be a 6 again next year. So that worked out well for Ron. Ron knows what he's doing. Alexander, who graded out very well. I did not know much about him until like last night. So this guy's pretty good. I mean, he 920 snaps, basically a full-time player. First 2 games or something, and then took over. 85 coverage, 73 run. He's a big guy, 6'1", 220, roughly. Legitimate, strong safety. When you watch his highlights, all they do is show him against the run. I'm like, I want to see this guy in coverage, but he's a strong safety, okay? So you worry about those guys with the health and stuff like that, but actually they're going a 6 with the coverage 85. If not, he gets a 5, you know? And he's young and he looks good, and he ran, actually checked his combine time too. It didn't look that fast to me on the field. He ran a 4.54 40 in the combine, which put him between Deion Buchanan and Ha Clinton Dix. Like, look, if he's faster than Ha Clinton Dix, that's pretty good. So I guess he's fast enough. And I had him, I think, as my number 3 safety. It was interesting. I thought I might get one of Jones or Collins. I was going to hopefully get Alexander, Allen, or Amos. Because they needed 2 safeties. And it worked out. I got Allen. It was the last one to the party. I got him last second round. Last pick of the second round. He was the last of those 5 to go. The late second round, Ron drafted Preston Smith. Interesting player, really good size. Built more like a 4-3 defensive end than a 3-4 OLB like he is on Washington. Although they've got a new coordinator coming in. And but you know, he's a 0-11 as a rookie, but graded out pretty poorly in the NFL. Certainly didn't take that step up that you were hoping for. And he had 4.5 sacks, so he could get a 9 possibly. Start of the game. Look at this. I mean, 73 in coverage is not too bad. Only 44 in the run, so or a 44. So, but he's young and he's supposed to be a good pass rusher. He's 0-11 for the year, so I could see somebody liking him. Adrian Amos, Ricardo Allen, Shaq Mason, Bud Dupree. So I was taking Bud Dupree over easily. But I think Ron is a Steelers fan, perhaps, in the NFL. And the Steelers. So he may have seen them a lot. Is not as high in Dupree. I don't know. Let's see if we have anything else for Oakland in the early rounds. Greg Matz, late 3rd round, graded out great. He might be a 5.7. Miller was saying he thought he would go earlier, and he didn't. But Nick Martin was a 2nd round pick going into this past season and was supposed to start. He got injured, and that's when Matz got the job. But Nick Martin's only 295, so don't see him moving to guard. Matz is bigger. He could move to guard. The guard would be annoyed. Maybe they just keep him at center. We'll see. But I certainly should have a good grade next year. And even if they move him to guard, late 3rd round, so that's a solid pick. 4th round, Clive Walford, who I think was going higher in the fall drafts. Didn't have the greatest season, but did okay. 34 catches. But he's young. Some people like him a lot. I'm not a big fan of his, but you don't have to do a lot as a tight end to get a decent Strat card. 40 catches next year, and then 11-yard average, he'll be usable. And a guy, late 4th round, who's going to be a part of your starting 11 on offense, you know, in your 2 tight end formation, or maybe even as your first tight end. Austin Pasler had some decent grades this year, so thinking about, of course, Ron's a shrewd guy. Why wouldn't he? Well, we're all thinking things, but he's thinking good things. All around back. Corey Grant, I liked a lot in the fall. I never drafted him. I was like, he's too small. He's not going to do anything, just be a kick returner. That's what he did all year. And then, like, late in the season, they played him and he had a great game. It's only 1 game. Carries, but that's an interesting pick. They got new coaching now, so we'll see. Nick Marshall is for the year, and I'm already in the 10th round because it'd be nice. So the last team that did not have any picks, no, it's not done. We got the Rams and Jacksonville. So the Rams is Nathan, who's got a good team for the year. He's trying to go hard for the year. He says next year he'll probably blow up his team. means that if you have a good nose tackle or offensive tackle, I might come a knocking going the other way next year, and they're trying to compete finally. Well, finally, this is only my second year of rebuilding. He traded it to me in the Jason Verrett trade. I gave him Jason Verrett, Charles Woodson, and DeBrickashaw Ferguson. Woodson and Ferguson are retired, but have good ratings, especially Woodson, for his 1 this year and his 2 next year. That'll be a late 2. For a late 2 this year to get Ricardo Allen. So you could say, like, you could pretty much say, I got 21 and Ricardo Allen for Verrett, Woodson, and Ferguson, which still seems very fair. Nathan and I trade very easily. We make offers, come to an agreement in 5 minutes, and make a deal. That's it. We're done. But I think sometimes I trade away my good ratings and good cards too cheaply because I want the draft picks. And in my mind, this guy's older. I'm giving away too cheaply. So I got to watch out for that. I try to be a little more aggressive this year with it. We're such a stickler with the draft, but Nathan will tell you, trade pretty fairly. So I did make a couple of one-sided offers, but like I should make an offer like that. I don't want to rip anybody off, but improve my team. Other guys are doing it. I don't know. So it's I don't know. It's a moral quandary. So the Rams had no first-round pick. Second-round pick. Rams had no third-round pick. Sensing a trend. Late fourth round, he traded. That's right. Nathan did his write-up on the forum. We all love the write-ups on the forum during my nursing visit because I still have access to my computer. Rashad Green, great punt return card in the 4th round. Cameron Artis-Payne as a short yardage back. Great short yardage back card. Great. And the 5th round, what she talked about, Darren Fells. Decent tight end card for the year. Deontay Thompson, a kick returning, blah, blah, blah. So mostly guys for the year. So great long-term. Great pick of the draft was number 4. By that point. So, and Nathan says he'll rebuild probably starting next year, probably tear it down, build it, because I've seen him do that before. Seen Nathan go for all out for the year. I've seen him go all out for the future, and I've seen him do both well. So I think when he goes in the future, we know he wants to make the Super Bowl this year. I'm not sure he's going to get there. Then off that quarterback situation, I can look at his whole team. But this is not the SSFA season preview show. Jacksonville traded their first-round pick. I think that was a running back deal, maybe. With no, that was a trade with Jeff. The trade. You can tell me what the trade was. I think he kept Earl Thomas. It was the Earl Thomas trade. Earl Thomas for the last pick of the first round and a 2 next year. Those picks. Then he had a late 2, but he chose to take the Rams 2 next year for that because it was number 24 in the round. So the worst case scenario, the pick is the exact same position, and maybe he wasn't thrilled with the guys there. His 3rd round pick was gone. Jay is a back-to-back SSFA champion, 2-time defending. So if he traded these picks away, he's got the rings. So I did trade him away too, because I'm getting to round 6. I remember he said it was his first pick of the day. Jake Fisher, the backup offensive lineman, 2nd-round NFL pick from Cincinnati, round 6. Kyle Emanuel in round 7. He was one of my sleepers in the fall, played okay. Although I think he's actually got a little bit of speed on him. See if Jeremiah Adewachu, Jim players, it could be a problem for Emmanuel. But I think Emmanuel is an NFL player. I think he's not bad. Might get a 4-5 in there every now and then. Justin Hardy, not a fan, but in the 8th round. 9th round. So that's his whole draft. 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh no, he had an extra 9. Who plays in the starting center for the Niners. Of course, that was under Chip Kelly. They got a brand new team, a new coaching staff rather coming in early in the 9th round, right? So Jake Fisher, Kyle Emanuel, Justin Hardy, Daniel Kilgore, Jerron Brown. I mean, not bad for what he had, which was never a little. So that's pretty much it. maybe too long, drawn on too long. That happened. And exercised my discipline. I went like 1 hour over. And Dennis knew what he was doing, not coming on. Hope you enjoyed it. I did share some of my stuff. Not that I'm the expert, I guess, but I do put a lot of work into it. I'm very happy with my team, as I've told you. Who knows? Maybe next year I'll draft Ezekiel Elliott, 15 this year. Game. Very little defense. It's not a good combination. At least Derek Carr's got a better card than last year. So I hope you enjoyed the show, guys. I'm going to sign off now on the forum. SOMIFA coming up soon. I'll be getting into SOMIFA as heavily as I do SOMIFA and SSFA. It, but then again, it's the last draft, so maybe you'll get something good. We'll see. Also, I feel like I already did like the spring draft show here with SSFA. You're just going to hear me say the same things about the same players. If I like the guy here, spot in the SOMIFA, I'm going to like him. If I don't like a guy here, I'm not going to like him. So just listen to this show again. You'll be fine. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. This is Tom. Bye-bye.